book is out today. It's called Stop in the Name of God, Why Honoring the Sabbath Will Transform Your Life. It's currently #1 on Amazon. He wrote it just 1 month before his assassination. Charlie had been urging people to disconnect from technology and reconnect with what matters. Watch this.
Turn your phone off for 1 day. No contact, no social media, no work. Your mental health will improve dramatically. That is a day to go be with God. That is a day to read your Bible and be out of the busyness and the hurriedness and the anger and the noise of this world.
Erika, this theme, it connects with everybody.
It
right?
does.
We're talking about this all the time, how we can be closer to family and to friends and be off our phones. Why was this so important for Charlie?
Because he knew that it transcended any type of political label, any age group, any demographic. And Charlie was known for being a bridge builder. And this is what helped fill that generational gap between grandparents and their grandchildren or parents and their children. And he knew, being able to see it firsthand, how it impacted his family and in us. And he knew that this was something that the world needed to hear, and God did too. And he put it on his heart, and Charlie wrote it. And I know that it's going to change and impact millions of lives.
It's amazing. Let's go around. Jesse?
When we sat down together, you told me the routine.
It was the routine.
He on a sunny day, he'd stretch, he'd reflect, he'd
go for
read.
a hike.
What was that like on those days of Sabbath?
Precious, priceless. I saw a side of my husband that the world never got to see. And that to me was so special, because that was him just being able to breathe, be able to be with the Lord, let my children climb all over him, be daddy, and get it. Yes, the world knows him as Charlie Kirk. I know him as my husband. My babies know him as daddy. And he was able to just reset, recalibrate, and say, you know what? The noise of this world can wait 24 hours. I can get back to it once I have a fresh brain and I'm rested.
I'm curious if your children are younger than the ones that I'm thinking about, but I have friends who I think would love to do this, especially as you start to get a little bit older and maybe the preteens or early teens, and they have phones.
Mm-hmm.
And parents are looking for a way to get them off their phone. It's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any thoughts about that in terms of what it did for your family, even though your children were younger? It could probably still have the same kind of effect for kids that are...
Oh, well, we're not screen time family with the children. I joke around that, yes, we did watch Charlie's show all the time. And then Bob Ross for nap-inducing moments. But it was very much so that that's not where our interaction is. You go to a dinner table, and if someone's on their phone while you're talking to them and having a conversation, they're half listening. So they're physically there, but they're not mentally there. So what kind of conversation is that? And so what Charlie also realized is the beauty and true authentic communication that's totally lacking these days. The fact that we can sit here and all have a conversation, the 5 of us, is amazing. That's actually a rare thing at a dinner table. All of us are focusing on what each person's saying, but when you're at a dinner table in Manhattan and you have kids and family, half of the people have their phones, like it's very disconnected. So maybe more dinner tables should look like this.
Yeah, indeed.
Right.
Tyrus?
There's no food on the table. First of all, it's my first time meeting you, so I'd like to say I'm very sorry for your loss. That's the first thing I'd like to say. And secondly, how are the children, and how are you holding up? Like, your daily routine obviously is forever changed.
It is.
With all the whirlwind and everything that you're between books and speech engagements and taking over Turning Point, like is the goal eventually to get back to where you were with your children before?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just, I mean, obviously it's all new and you're still going through it, but
right. No, it's a very fair question. It's a great question. I am now at my age having to relearn my life. It's a very fair question. My babies come with me to the office anytime that I do have to go into the office. But what is so powerful is that Charlie handpicked the leadership team at Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action. He knew exactly who needed to be in the leadership roles to get things done, because he also had his radio show and his podcast, and he was traveling on campuses doing Prove Me Wrongs. So for him, he wanted to make sure that his baby, Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action, they were running smoothly. And so he was so instrumental and intentional about who he put in those positions. So I am very blessed to have a team. I cannot do this without my team and my family. I call them my family because they are. Those staff members are not employees to me. They're family members. It is not a 9-to-5. It's a mission-driven organization. And everyone that works there is working there because they understand the heart and soul and the DNA of Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action. They're not there for just getting a paycheck. And it's so powerful. And Turning Point USA, I need that organization just as much as this country does because they are my family. And I know that what my husband started was led and now it's vision led, and we are all locked in. It's very powerful.
I wanted to ask you, so I do have kids around the same age as yours, and I've been overwhelmed by how you have managed this and the grace that you've shown. And in particular, as someone, I'm a Reformed Jew, not particularly religious, but I was really struck by you saying just a few days after Charlie was murdered that you forgave Tyler Robinson, the alleged murderer, I think we're still supposed to say. Can you talk to us about how you managed to do that? Because that seems like the number one life lesson that I would love to get from someone, how you could find that in yourself. And you're modeling a Christianity that is so inspirational to me, especially as someone who's not particularly religious.
No, it's very kind. I appreciate that. It's again, I've said this and I'll say it again, that was something I heavily prayed on. I'm not going to say something that I don't believe in, and I wouldn't expect anyone else to. And I wouldn't expect someone to understand my position, especially with something that's as horrific and evil. But at the same time, hate is very powerful from the standpoint of it's all consuming. It will deteriorate. It will tear you apart. It will, I know they say it's like drinking a poison. It impacts you more than the other person. And if I had any ounce of hate in my heart, the Lord would not be able to use me. I also want to be able to show people that, yes, okay, you forgive someone. You don't forget what they did. It's not a weakness. It's a form of a strength to know, okay, Lord, I am surrendering to you. You have a choice. Am I going to stand in the corner, be in fetal position and crying, or I'm going to stand on my 2 feet by the Lord's strength, be able to say, Lord, give me grace today. I don't know how you're going to use it, but I know you'll use it for your glory. I'm here. Use me. Shine the light of where I'm supposed to go. And please, please, every single day, give me grace, heal me, Lord. And it's just a repetitive thing. Faith is just a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And I pray that everyone understands that your life might be the only Bible someone reads. So be authentic with it.
Greg is not here. He has the sniffles, Erika. But Harold is also not here. This is Jessica. Harold, Jesse, and Greg are in a Bible study group together.
Are they really?
Because of Charlie Kirk.
Okay, that is really cool.
So every morning,
That is really cool.
every morning we wake up and we read a passage and then we text about it.
Okay.
And it is because of Charlie.
I love that.
Wait a minute.
You're not invited.
I don't. No, I lift weights in the morning.
You can still get Bible verses when you're lifting.
Yes.
You mentioned them, but you didn't put yourself in. But yet you're reading the texts. So you're in the group too.
No, I'm in the group. I said Jesse. I spoke of myself in the third person.
Which is annoying.
I'm sorry.
I speak in third person, not you. We've discussed it. It's in my contract. Tyrus doesn't like that.
Have you been hearing anecdotes about that? This is how Charlie impacted me. I'm reconnecting with the Lord.
It is so powerful. People that are buying Bibles for the first time, going back to church in years, calling their family members and apologizing or saying, hey, can we somehow bridge this, heal this? It's powerful. And Charlie, every single day on his way into work, would text people Bible verses. And he just wanted to remind people that this is what it's all about. It's about, your life here is so short. So are you going to use your short time here on earth to make this place better, or are you going to make it worse? Are you going to be a solution, or are you going to be an additional problem? And so
Erika, one of the most alarming things about Charlie's murder was the way that some people in this country reacted to it.
Yeah.
And not just online. This was kind of this was an idea that you encountered a lot. And the idea was this. They kind of justified it. They basically said that because Charlie said or believed things that they believed were controversial or even hateful, that he somehow had it coming. What do you say to people who justified his death?
You're sick. He's a human being. You think he deserved that? Tell that to my 3-year-old daughter. Excuse me. You want to watch in high res the video of my husband being murdered and laugh and say he deserves it? There's something very sick in your soul, and I pray that God saves you. I pray, because that is what is so wrong. The internet in this world has dehumanized us.
To be true. Trust us, okay? You're mentally unwell. What we are looking at right now is a badly run PR campaign. I am saying that it is badly run because it's recognizable. A good PR campaign is not recognizable. A bad PR campaign is an obvious one. And I am going to request respectfully, I know it's not going to be honored, I'm going to respectfully request that all of these Agent Smiths in this obvious matrix just stop, okay? This PR campaign, it's been nonstop since Charlie was shot. It was honestly dead on arrival, okay? We do not trust this. We do not believe this. And yet we are wildly kind of in this position where they're testing to see how many times they can say the same thing before they convince everybody else at home that it's true, okay? Their equation that they seem to be running, if it's that formula, is talking points multiplied by 10,000 talking heads must equal results. Okay? They believe that with enough of an echo, they can override basic human instinct, basic intellect, really. There is, I would like to be very clear, nothing that feels right to me about the Charlie Kirk assassination, and especially the way that some of his employees and friends have been behaving since that assassination. And I'll preface this with, I am very sorry if that offends you, Erika. Genuinely, I am sorry that there is no amount of increase in pressure and propaganda and headlines written about me that are going to convince me. And by the way, I'm just the conduit, right? You're attacking me, but you're angry that also the masses have not accepted this. There's not a number that is going to convince the masses that his human neck, stopped a 30-06 bullet. Okay, and not even just stop the bullet. I also want to be clear here. It's not just that they're saying that it ricocheted and it stopped, and this would maybe be the first time in human history. And please, if you do know a story, you've got an old article, I don't care where it's from, if you saved a newspaper article from the early 1900s in your family of an example, I don't think that bullet existed then, but like of a 30-06 being stopped by a human neck, please present it. I'd like to show that it is possible, right? It is actually, this happened one time down in Texas, it's possible. But not only are they saying that they stopped it, but I want to remind you that there was minimal damage to the front of Charlie's neck as well, okay? There was minimal damage to the front of Charlie's neck as well. So it didn't even cause a lot of, damage as it went in. It just cleanly went in and then ricocheted downward into his stomach. I'm frustrated, obviously, for a lot of reasons, but Erika's, that's now being teased, the interview with Barry Weiss, it's being termed a town hall. And Barry is obviously just a Tel Aviv agent. Her entire background story, her rise, her studying in Tel Aviv, her family ties, the hand of Midas pulling her through the ranks a la Jeffrey Epstein. Despite her sub-average intelligence, she's not interesting. She somehow becomes a chief over at CBS News. Right? This actually, what I'm saying about Barry Weiss, this gets into Tucker's quote-unquote problematic speech at SAS when he jumped on stage and basically asked that question. How are all of these subpar people becoming billionaires? The rest of us have to work forever. They're not interesting. They're not talented. And they just seemingly are just getting all of this money and opportunities offered to them. This is clearly not a meritocracy that we're living under. It feels more like, and I'm saying this, more like a cartel. Okay, Barry Weiss is actually one of the people that we should study when it comes to being unimpressive and just getting handouts anyways. It's like welfare. I feel like she's on welfare. Like we all have to work and she gets promoted. And she's going to be unimpressive in this clip because that's her default. She can't even convincingly ask the prepared, loaded question that she is going to deliver to Erika. And this question, like I said, has likely, by the way, been reviewed and marked up by lawyers, but she still is not even convincing, despite having it ahead of time in this delivery. Take a listen.
The podcaster Candace Owens, okay? At one time, a friend of Charlie's, at one time, an employee of Turning Point. She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies, and she is making a huge amount of money on it. She is building her business off of these lies. What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now?
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
So this is just, to me, I'm going to also let you know, they pre-recorded this. Obviously, I told you this yesterday from about 11 o'clock to 4 p.m. I have sources just everywhere, CBS News, the people that were in the audience I showed you were emailing me, and they had to do multiple takes because Barry wanted to read a prompter. These questions were pre-submitted, okay? And I would like to respond to this loaded question. What would you like to say? The podcaster Candace Owens, and I'm not even going to address this repeat talking point about people making money, except for the people that have actually made off of all of the money, millions upon millions of dollars. But this is the new thing. It's like if you keep doing what you were already doing in podcasting or keep doing what you were already doing and doing ballistics on YouTube, if you catch a bunch of views, they want to convince you that like you wake up and you turn into a millionaire. Building her business. What are you talking about? I already had this business. I was already at the top of the charts. Okay, I said I wasn't going to talk about it. I actually did because it's so ridiculous, okay? But she says, I'm lying. And Erika responds, and her answer to what do you want to say to the podcaster Candace Owens who is lying is stop. So Erika would like me to stop lying. And I would like to honor that, okay? I can only honor that if Erika is more explicit in terms of what I have lied about. What did I lie about? It's just incredible. There have this opportunity. The questions have been before. You could just start like going through them. Maybe they will. By the way, it's coming out on Saturday. Maybe I've made a mistake somewhere and I'm happy. I want to correct that, right? I'm not interested. My goal is not to tell lies. It is obviously plausible that I have made mistakes. I've reviewed these lists that we've put together and I can't find the lie, okay? The lies that I find are coming out of Turning Point USA. Okay, and here are some of those lies. You know, Mikey had blood all over him. Okay, Mikey has offered that his dad was confused. I'll accept that. Well, I didn't lie about that. Rob McCoy lied. His father also said he called his father first. Maybe Rob McCoy was confused. Mikey being a hero for walking away doesn't feel honest. Charlie's neck stopping a 30-06 bullet because he ate healthy and had strong bones. It was a modern day Christian miracle. That feels like a pretty big lie. Okay. Charlie never wavered in his support for Israel was a nasty lie. Maybe Barry want to like, what do you want to say to the people that literally lied about what Charlie was living through in the last weeks of his life? Stop, Josh Hammer. stop Bibi Netanyahu? No, I'm sorry. Barry Weiss is here. We're not going to get to that. Charlie was a committed evangelical who only liked Catholic architecture. Did I lie about that? Nope. Turning Point USA lied about that. And I was attacked for telling, I'm attacked for catching the lies. We'll get to that later. That's their new method. Once first they accuse me of lying, then I prove I'm not lying. And then their strategy is to attack me for telling the truth and saying, how dare you reveal a personal text message to defend yourself from being called a liar. We can keep going here. Has any of this been clarified? Ben Shapiro said they never had any bad blood between them. I proved that was not true. Again, that also came from a little PR. Alex Clark pulling that move. Next page, Terrell Farnsworth was told to remove that SD card by police. That was not true. Terrell Farnsworth personally told me that was not true. Terrell removed the SD cards because people were stealing hats. Again, not what Terrell Farnsworth himself told me. And also doesn't make any logical sense because if you were worried about theft, you would have taken the cameras and not just the SD card, particularly from the camera behind his head, as opposed to the cameras that were in front of him. Lie. Charlie established a Doge and it was not unusual. That's a lie. It was unusual. Doge didn't even exist prior to Elon Musk making that a thing about government accountability. Charlie Kirk's team did not fly drones. Major lie. Brian Harpole told that lie. Brian Harpole also told a major lie when he said that the security had communicated with UVU police to secure those rooftops. That was a lie. It was actually the walkway behind. What am I getting here? What have I done here in this presentation that I lied about? Have I made mistakes along the way? Yes, I'm not perfect, and I will always adjust those mistakes. So I'm asking you to tell me what I lied about. Why is there not this same energy also for the feds? Because they've told some lies. We've got a list of those too. We put that together. We would like some clarity. Again, Charlie being shot with a 30-06. The lover text messages mysteriously presented without any timestamps. Lying about how Tyler Robinson was arrested. They claim that he confessed and turned himself in. That's not what happened. That he said he was guilty. All of his father said he was guilty. That's not what happened. Never revealed that Tyler Robinson was at the Dairy Queen following the assassination. He was throwing clothes away, as I presented to you guys in the cemetery. That's problematic to the timeline. We'd like some clarity. That's an oddity. They said Tyler Robinson was arrested wearing a maroon shirt. That actually was also not true. They said Tyler Robinson was suicidal, but also turned himself in because he was afraid of being shot by police. Those two ideas seem to be running into each other. How can both of these things be true? Did he want to die or not want to die? Maybe there's an explanation. It's definitely odd. And the footage mysteriously missing of Tyler Robinson turning himself in. And then, of course, there's just like things that we can't get answers to, which is the Egyptian planes, tracking Charlie, following Erika throughout years. Instead, they're laughing at these things. So what am I lying about? Explicitly lying about, not made a molecular or a minor mistake. We got a time zone wrong. And then it's like, she lied. The plane left a couple of hours earlier. Maybe somewhere I made a mistake on a timeline of Charlie being here on this day when he's actually there on that day. But I'm talking like, where am I lying? Because I would like to stop if you can tell me. Okay. And maybe they will. Maybe we'll get to that on Saturday. And by the way, to be clear, I am also telling the truth. It is not my opinion that these questions were pre-selected. It's a fact. It's a fact. Like I said, we have insiders. The questions were pre-selected. And one of the pre-selected questions was for Erika, and this will come out on Saturday, setting the stage for her to condemn anti-Semitism, to which she responds and speaks about, as I told you yesterday, how Turning Point will be hosting a Shabbat dinner. And in case the direction of travel for CBS under the stewardship of Barry Weiss is not clear, they even brought in during this town hall the father of the young woman who was shot in D.C. at the Jewish Museum. I think that was an IDF soldier. I might be wrong about that. They also brought out Hunter Kozak, who asked the last question to Charlie Kirk. They filled the audience with people selected by CBS, college Republicans, with questions selected by CBS. So it just is objectively a controlled and a managed situation, controlled and a managed conversation, if you will. But, and you can predict this, If you are at home this Saturday and you watch this and you're just, you know, a regular old person around the world and you go, this feels really scripted. The influencers are going to come out and they're going to mark you as evil, demonic even. How dare you? Question, what? Are you kidding me? This is like, you're not allowed to say that this feels scripted ever, even though this entire thing since September 10th feels scripted to me. But that's not it. Okay, we're going to get more because Erika also sat down with Glenn Beck of Blaze TV. Now, again, this is all a part of a PR blitz for Charlie's upcoming book on honoring the Shabbat, which I'm not going to be doing because I'm Christian. So I'd like to already just say no. Okay. Anyways, Glenn Beck's interview has a bunch of high points, if you will. Foremost, Erika stressing that she believes that the truth is clear. Take a listen.
I don't know how you handle this, Eric. I don't know how to be dragged into, you know, you were involved in the death and all this crazy, evil stuff.
No, it's sick.
God bless you.
It's sick.
God bless you. It is.
My family means everything to me. Turning Point USA has always been in our life and has always been so good to Charlie, and Charlie was good to his team. Everyone loved Charlie.
Yeah.
I get that. Everyone wants an answer to this evil. And sometimes the answer is very clear.
Yeah.
The truth
You know,
is very clear.
So I just want to say to, first and foremost, Glenn setting that question up, I can't find to this day, because this just feels to me to be like the ultimate straw man, any commentator that has explicitly accused Erika of killing Charlie Kirk. I've seen psychological manipulation of influencers trying to say that if you critique Turning Point, that's akin to accusing Charlie Kirk of Erika Kirk of killing her husband, which is utterly ridiculous. But I have never seen, and maybe I missed it, I've seen a lot, somebody come out and say Erika Kirk murdered Charlie. But that's what they set up always, which is like, I don't know how you are. I've seen people digging into her background. I've seen people speaking about her Romanian charity. I've seen people looking into her mother, all of that. I've seen all of that, but I have not yet seen where this idea that they keep trying to seed into our minds that asking any questions is it's equivalent to accusing her of murder. That even that feels manipulative to me. Then comes in this totally organic question from Glenn Beck. Totally organic, right? And this is going to be the extreme appeal to authority, which is, okay, if we don't want to answer any questions, we're just going to say you don't understand how the court works. You shouldn't be asking questions because that could potentially ruin the upcoming trial. Take a listen.
You concerned about his assassin is in court today. Are you concerned about being able to have a jury that's not been tainted?
No, it's a real thing, Glenn, and you get this. A lot of people don't, and I think that we need to do a better job of educating our citizens about our court systems. A lot of people don't know how an actual trial plays out. I am very curious about how the United Healthcare case plays out. We are living in a day and age where social media can absolutely impact. I feel it can. The reason I say that is because I don't want a tainted jury pool. I want justice for my husband. Anytime we have leads, anytime we hear anything, we send it to the authorities. We're not messing around. None of us are involved in my husband's murder. None of us. Turning Point USA, myself, any of these other crazy accusations, none of us.
Okay, so this is what I mean, where I just feel like we're just doing the same thing over and over and over again in politics, where you can just apply any situation. Like it's how it starts. It's like they come up with a narrative and it feels really stupid. You could apply this to COVID, whatever. And then people start asking questions because it feels really stupid. And then they tell you like, oh, I wish you guys were more educated about science. I wish you guys were more educated about doctors and nurses and like, You're just not there. I wish we could explain to you how these things work, but you're going to have to trust the experts. And yeah, I actually think that also because you guys are not trusting the experts, we're going to have to censor people on social media as they did during COVID, because social media is problematic. Actually, the problem is free speech ultimately, right? Like the problem is that you have people on social media who are talking common sense and they don't understand this. Okay, that's like, that doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me, and it shouldn't work for you. And this next portion is where we get into the mass formation psychosis element, which is when they're trying to modify our behavior, the behavior of the masses, and they kind of want us to all form around this idea. And this is kind of actually the we're all in this together psychology that you're about to see, right? The higher calling element of the psychological conditioning. You guys are focusing on the minutia of that day and whether or not the government is involved with assassinating Charlie Kirk. But, Tim Pool's telling you guys midterms, there's midterms and there's things, that's the higher calling, right? The masses should get around that higher calling. Like, even if it goes against your gut to mask your toddler, even if it goes against your gut to let your grandma die alone in a hospital, even if something is screaming at you and you're saying, why does this all feel abusive? Like abusive to toddlers, abusive to our grandparents, let them die alone. Why does it feel to me, my instinct tells me that we shouldn't put medical masks on toddlers who can't see expressions? Well, the higher calling is that you should always ignore your gut, right? Because we're all in this together, and there's something bigger that we can aspire to. You should violate your gut instinct, and that's what's coming next. Take a listen.
I don't need you to comment on this, but I think mental illness is involved in some of this stuff that is online.
Yeah,
I think it's really,
and Glenn,
honestly,
I'll be honest,
I feel bad.
I am not going to
it's
waste
mental
my
illness.
time. I'm not going to waste my time in combating people, going toe to toe, calling people names. That's just not me. That's not how Charlie operated. There's no reason for me to go down a dark place like that. I'm so tired of the fracture. What drives me nuts is that Charlie, he has worked and provided and has blessed us with so much, like literally his book, he has blessed us with so much wisdom, so much, he's just such a good thought leader. He blessed us with laser focus on the mission, on saving this country. But instead, we're so focused on who did what. Like, yes, we will figure all that out. Yes, this is a murder case. He did not die in a car crash. Yes, that will be handled. But my husband's legacy is not about his murder. My husband's legacy is what he left behind.
I just reject that. Okay, I reject that there's a higher calling that we need to all get around, and the legacy of actually the legacy, if we find out that the government is implicated, and it looks like to me, and I think a lot of people on the outside, the government is implicated, otherwise it wouldn't require every department of the government using propaganda to convince us against common sense, okay? And if we find out that the government is implicated, then actually his legacy is going to be that a person who gave all of himself to helping people get elected, all of himself to this political machine, was ultimately killed by it. And I think that matters to a lot of people. And I think it's obvious it matters to a lot of people because what feels like $1 billion campaign of propaganda against it doesn't seem to be working. There is something very big that we are very close to unpacking here. And the panic that we sense right now in deploying what feels to me to be a really nasty emotional tactic here, basically trying to say to people, how dare you go against the grieving widow? How dare you go against David Hogg, right? And you're like, well, I don't know if David Hogg, I'm very sad, obviously, that a school shooting happened. The Parkland shooting at high school should not happen. No child should have to live with that. But why does that mean David Hogg gets to go to Harvard? right? Does that make sense? Like, does he belong at Harvard? And they go, oh, how you evil, demonic person. Are you possessed? How could you ever question his authority and whether or not he's equipped to run the charity and speak on, gun issues? He survived a school shooting. That's what they're doing right now. And I want to also say that why I don't love these interviews, and I say this with great deference to Erika. And in the beginning with some of these interviews, I said, look, like, of course, they're going to want to make sure they screen these questions. Like, she's going through a lot. Like, she's transitioning, she's doing this. I was like, I wouldn't want to be in her position. We're 3 months in now. Okay. We are still getting rehearsed answers. And I feel like what is missing from all of this is, I don't know, like passion, normal passion, not this like chat GBT feeling of, well, we all need to unite around the mission. It's like, no, I don't really care about cash. I would just be like, what is the borough doing? What has anybody traced this down? Okay. I don't know if Candace is crazy, but she says the French Foreign Legion was there. Has anybody chased this down? I texted her, I got this information. Okay, it's wrong. That's a dead end. Let me move over here. I've got files. I'm going to run this investigation alongside you, Cash. And I don't know what he's doing. I want like one critique of the FBI, one critique of anything which the public is saying is worthy of critique. Like, it's almost like you're dressing down public perception. Like, people think that you can have enough money to just cut over people's gut instincts. That's what it is. It feels like we're so rich, you don't have the right to think. Okay? We are rich enough to remove that. So stop thinking. The elites are here. It feels elite. That's why I hate this. It feels elite. It feels like the opposite of whatever turning point felt like when they were the underdogs, right? This entire presentation is elite. I'm on CBS stage with pre-prep questions and Barry Weiss, and I obviously have rehearsed this answer because I got these questions ahead of time. I obviously know I'm going to get asked this, so I'm going to do I don't even like, and this is a fact. You can ask anybody who's ever interviewed me. I never ask for questions ahead of time. I don't want to know. I don't want to know the direction it's going into. I never give them anything. I never say we can't talk about this. Nothing's off record, because even getting questions ahead to me, preparing answers feels fake and gay, right? That just feels rehearsed, because it is. It has to be rehearsed. You got the questions ahead of time. And at this stage, I don't like it. I don't like it. I want something that feels anywhere where it feels authentic. Like one question mark that you have, you're like, oh, like I'd like you to be like, I don't know about those text messages. I think Tyler Robinson pulled the trigger, but the text messages are weird. It's just, I trust my team. My team is amazing. And my favorite date is April 24th because it's not too hot and it's not too cold. And all you need is a light jacket. Like it feels fake. It does. I'm sorry. And I am still interested in getting basic answers to our questions. I don't accept that that's somehow going to ruin the court case, because that's a nonsense. You cannot logically explain to the public how letting us see Mikey McCoy's phone records is just one example. If that's really causing you so much grief, here they are. Here's who we called on that day and for how long. How would that implicate? How would that frustrate your lawyer's efforts? How would the current court case and the jury pool be impacted if you answered about why these Egyptian planes, why it's a statistical anomaly for these Egyptian planes to be surrounding Turning Point USA, Faith events, you and Charlie this many times? How would that impact? And again, I'm a gut player. It's common sense. So forgive me for not being elite enough and educated enough and expert enough to understand how it would impact things. Explain it to me like I'm not a legal expert, like I don't trust legal experts. I think they're all full of shit. Explain it to me that way. It's not tracking. It's not tracking. And I get it. It's me against the whole world. Actually, it's not. It's me against the elites. We've done this a lot of times. Like I said, Ukraine, COVID, there's a formula here. There's a pattern here. If all of the mainstream apparatus and all of the influencers are pushing something and calling the other thing evil, we're probably about 2 years away from them all then apologizing and being like, I just got it wrong. I shouldn't have told you to get the vaccine. It's a pattern that I've noticed. So I'm going to stick with saying that what happened on September 10th, we are not getting the truth about. We will be back after a few messages from our sponsors. All right, you guys, when they double down on abortion, we have to double down on supporting life. Through our partnership with Preborn, we can help save babies and support mothers that are in need. Every day, Preborn's clinics rescue hundreds of babies because when a mother sees her baby on an ultrasound and hears that tiny heartbeat, her chance of choosing life doubles. And now, thanks to a generous match program, your gift will be doubled as well. That means twice as many ultrasounds, twice as many lives saved, and twice as many mothers that are given hope with diapers, car seats, and counseling provided and care for up to 2 years. If you've heard about Preborn before and you have not yet taken action, there is no better time to do so than right now. Their work is some of the most important work to help heal our country. One ultrasound costs just $28, but you can obviously give 10 times that amount if you're able to. Head to preborn.com/Candace to give. Again, that is preborn.com/Candace. Also reminding you guys about PDS Debt, because whether you are struggling with credit cards, personal loans, or medical bills, PDS Debt has custom options to help you get out of debt. They go beyond the numbers to understand your unique financial situation and to craft a personalized plan that is designed just for you. There's no minimum credit score that's required. They're here to help you save more, pay off your debt faster, and start putting money back where it belongs, which is in your pocket. PDS Debt is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. It boasts thousands of 5-star reviews on Google, and it holds a 5-star rating on Trustpilot. Why? Because PDS has helped hundreds of thousands of people get out of debt. Every month you wait, it will cost you more interest and fees. The best time to start was probably yesterday. The second best time is right now. Don't wait another month. Take back control in 30 seconds. Get your free personalized assessment and the best option for you by visiting pdsdebt.com/Candace. Again, pdsdebt.com/Candace. That's the vibe. We are too rich. We are elite, we are rich, we are powerful, we have connections, and you guys are just beneath us. There's like an element of feudalism here. Like, we are the lords, and who are you? Who are you? We can afford this, and we're gonna keep pushing, and until you believe what we say happened, even when it just makes no sense. It's frustrating. Like, I'm frustrated by it. And again, I have been clear. I think Tyler Robinson was involved on that day. I think there were multiple people that were involved in that day. Obviously, most people were involved. I think he took clothes and hid them in the cemetery or whatever next to the Dairy Queen. But I don't think that he was on campus that day. I do not believe Tyler Robinson was on campus that day. And I would just also like to point out how easy it would be for them to give us anything believable. Help me out, guys. Again, I'm not a legal expert. Glenn Beck understands this stuff, but who am I? I'm so sorry, Glenn. I don't explain it to us. But I don't understand how if they just released a video of him taking the shot, because there's video of that, how would that ruin their case? How would that not support their case, actually? And also support their case with the public? Like, that would be the first thing I would do rather than try to deploy this propaganda effort. You could just present something solid, like something that isn't flimsy in this entire thing. And I think that would be my call. I would just be like, here you go. There you are. Happy for you to see it. He took the shot, and you're going to see Tyler Robinson jump down, and it's not going to impact our case because how could it? It's open and shut. He wrote out his entire confession. You're seeing the footage. Nope, they can't do that. Well, guys, I'm happy to learn that Tyler Robinson is not AI because, that it's been so weird that we just can't see anything about him. Obviously, I'm being tongue-in-cheek, but he has finally appeared in person. He made his first in-person court appearance. Kind of seemed like he was smiling. I did not get the energy of someone who is worried about getting the electric chair. There's nothing really to add here. There wasn't anything that really came out of this hearing. Everything is obviously very preliminary at this stage. This is going to take a long time, but we're obviously hoping that they are going to allow transparency and accessibility to the case by allowing the media in there. Media organizations, even for this case, are requesting the transcript of the hearing, and hopefully we will have more. But He exists, okay? We'll keep you posted. In other news or things that I'm frustrated about is just more than the people who hate me and are dedicated every minute, because apparently they're allowed to get clicks off of my name. I'm not allowed to talk about what I want to talk about on my show, but they can talk about what they want to talk about over and over and over again on their show. But I reserve more contempt for the people who don't have the courage to just hate me and instead try to hide behind Bible verses. There is something that deeply and spiritually bothers me about that. And chief among them is Allie Beth Stuckey, okay? She presents herself, like her brand is squeaky clean Christianity, does a lot behind the scenes. She's hired like a monster PR agent. Anyone will tell you that. There's not a single Daily Wire host, Matt Walsh, Michael knows, nicest people ever, Brett Cooper, nicest person, that will defend Allie Beth Stuckey's current PR agent, who is just literally hell-bent on advancing Israel's cause by any means necessary, like by sending someone to follow me after I was no longer employed there to try to make me look bad on camera. She keeps files and cuts people out of context and then sends it to people like Ian Miles Chung. I mean, this is a bad person who Allie Beth has hired, but we're supposed to believe Allie Beth is Christian. Anyways, I do want to point to this because she's now, no, it's always biblical. So you can never question whether or not she's just being a mean girl and using Bible verses to qualify being mean. But yesterday we peaked because she's now moved to being a teacher and letting you know that not trusting the mainstream narrative actually is, it's a rhetorical device that was used during BLM. Let's just read her post here. This really annoyed me. And even further, the comment section annoyed me. But she wrote, in 2020, we all became familiarized with the Kafka trap. It's a rhetorical trick wherein you insist that someone's denial of an accusation proves their guilt. You're denying you're a racist because of your white fragility. It's a way to make your arguments irrefutable without ever having to provide evidence. BLM uses this tactic repeatedly, and now Candace has taken a page out of their book. Anyone, including Charlie's own wife, who pushes back against her conspiracies are only doing so because it's a psyop. They're getting paid. It couldn't possibly be that people sincerely disagree with her methods or can disprove her faulty logic. It's an effective, albeit dishonest, way to solidify yourself as the only champion of truth. Now, first and foremost, this is a very unfortunate example for her to use BLM, saying that 2020 taught us that many people fall for this type of thing, because the truth is most people don't want to think. Actually, Allie, ironically, I actually did the documentary on BLM and George Floyd, and the lessons of the George Floyd movement was that the entire media plus influencers can collude to suspend rational thinking and can use emotional arguments, right, to get you to stop looking at a corrupt charity. I can't believe she used this example. It's like, there's nothing more that could be in my defense than saying, oh, remember what happened in 2020? Yeah, I do remember what happened in 2020. The media lied about George Floyd. They lied about how he died. A video went viral. Every influencer posted black squares, called people racist, said you were with them or you're against them. You were evil if you didn't understand how far racism had become. And then little old me did a video and I disrupted this narrative by telling people the facts about George Floyd's background, his record. I then did a documentary on it. And I revealed to the world that the media actually is to blame. Like, they will collude with each other. These are powerful organizations. They can make something go viral. They can make evil look like good and good look like evil. That is actually the true lesson of corporate structure versus really just a few truth tellers, people who are actually willing and dared to question that narrative, okay? Now, my issue is that when people push back on her, she just pulls out the Bible, okay? Like, for example, this is in the comment section. Somebody wrote to her because she's been sniping at me and it's been very mean girl-esque. This person wrote this on Instagram. They wrote in the comment section, you keep inserting yourself into this topic, but you never add any real value. So what is the agenda for you here? Candace wasn't even mean to you when you inserted yourself the first time. So mean girl energy, like, that's a fair question. She does have mean girl energy. Then she says, oh, Britt, I comment on the news. Charlie was my good friend. No one commenting on this story is inserting themselves any more than Candace is. You don't see value in learning how to decipher truth logically and biblically, and that's okay. Like, that sentence, Just play it again. I want to read it again. You don't see the value in learning how to decipher truth logically and biblically. And that's okay. My content is not for you then. How does that not just make your skin crawl? I don't know. Like, does that not make your skin crawl? Just be snipey and petty. Stop using the Bible as a shield for what you're doing, okay? That woman accurately called you out. I don't know her. Thank you for saying it's very obvious what you're doing. To come back and say, I'm so sorry that you don't like the Bible. I'm so sorry that you don't like the Bible. She is like Salve Regina George, right? Like Mean Girls was fine because we all knew Regina George was mean and she was like proud of that. Allie Beth Stuckey does the same like tactic of attacking people, sniping them. And then she's like, I'm sorry you don't like the Bible. I actually do like the Bible. You know, I haven't made Christianity my brand because I'm a Catholic and I don't believe that women can be priests and should be playing the part of pastors. I believe that if I have a question about the Bible, I should go to my priest, not to Allie Beth Stuckey on Instagram. But what I can say to you is that a main takeaway is the truth. You should commit yourself to the truth. And Allie Beth Stuckey has gone through great pains to cover up for people that are lying. Okay. No one worse than Josh Hammer. Okay. Josh Hammer explicitly lied about Charlie's state of mind. He went on multiple podcasts. He called me a liar. He never blinked on Israel. If I did not release that text message, that would have been the narrative. If you are a Christian and you purport to have been a good friend to Charlie, that's low-hanging fruit to say what Josh Hammer did here was wrong. Okay. She says she's a good friend to Charlie, but when similarly, I came out and said a thing about the Catholic faith. If you were a good friend, wouldn't you have said, you know what, Alex Clark, that whole little episode saying Charlie only liked architecture for what it's worth, it wasn't true. You wouldn't be running PR for her. If you were a friend to Charlie and you were committed to truth, then when Ben Shapiro lied and said that he never had any issues with Charlie, and I said that's not true. It's very, very much not true. Why is your reaction every time that I expose the lie to attack me? That's what she does. I'm going to show you a clip. All of these people have been caught in verifiable lies. And let's be clear, they attacked me first. I never came out and attacked these people. I just said, oh, the Catholic thing was cool and I was hoping for that. Or, as Ben came out and said that he was good with Charlie or whatever and was doing a show. That's not true. That actually is not true. And all these people just attacked me for saying, oh, he had some issues with Israel in the end. Watch Allie, how manipulative it is that she is going to defend those characters who are lying and say that it's problematic that I am telling the truth after I've been lied on. Look at this clip.
She's released a bunch of texts about Ben between her and between Charlie, and, you know, basically saying that they didn't like Ben very much back in the day, 7 years ago. And I just will say, like, yeah, I would hate someone to, like, after I died, to reveal texts like that, like, between us, because those texts didn't make Ben look bad. They made Charlie look bad. They made Charlie look bad.
So
and, like,
manipulative.
That's
She's
your
so
friend.
manipulative.
That's your friend, man. And why? I mean, it makes him look petty. And I'm just not sure, like, what that revelation really accomplishes. She's also criticized Lila Rose heavily, and she's kind of questioned Lila's military connections, I guess, because her husband is a veteran. She has questioned Alex Clark and Alex's decision to talk to the Wall Street Journal a week after Charlie was murdered. And Candace claimed that it would make her feel icky to speak to the media 1 week after Charlie's death. She did do a CNN interview a couple weeks after Charlie died, though. And I just want to say, like, I know Alex and Lila really well. I know Seth. I've known Ben over the years. I know Josh. And everything I know about these people is that they are kind and genuine people. And I don't believe that they deserve at all to be implicated in this way.
I don't believe that they deserve to be called out when they're lying. I think it's fine that they attacked her. I think it's fine that they lied on her. The ugly thing is when Candace stands up for herself and brings receipts. So she demands evidence. demands evidence. There's no evidence. I present the evidence, and then she says, you know what? Showing that text message from 7 years ago to prove that while Charlie was coming up, which is what I said, that's why it had to be from 7 years ago, obviously, that's the crime. That doesn't make Charlie look good. You telling the truth and not allowing a bunch of people to grift after he dies by pretending they were friends with him and had no issues, people that literally tried to stop him from coming who he became, allowing Alex to just lie about where he was while you purport to be a friend of Charlie. You mysteriously didn't know about the mass stuff, the Catholic conversation. The issue is me telling the truth. That's what she's saying. And in every episode, and she's done many, she always uses the Bible, okay? She uses the Bible. So how could you question it? Do you not like the Bible? I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you don't like the Bible. Should I do that every episode? Should I say, I'm sorry if you don't like the Bible? I'm the Bible. So I just want to say, even these people that are lying, right? Well, the Bible says that I don't think it's fair for you to call out my friends when they're lying. That is naked tribalism to the Judeo-Christian cause. That is what she cares about. She is a Zionist, and she will defend people who are Zionists even when they're caught lying. And that is not friendship. That is dishonesty. And like I said, you should be ashamed of yourself to quote scripture, use scripture, manipulate well-meaning Christians to believe that it should be their Christian position to not call out lies, to not fight lies, to just allow them to happen. I don't like that at all. And like I said, I have special contempt for the people who come in the name of the Lord when they manipulate. That's worse than just hate it. You can hate me for free. You don't got to hold up a Bible when you do it. Take a quick break, and I will get to some of your questions. All right, I tell you that me and my team love Paleo Valley beef sticks, specifically their meat sticks with 100% grass-fed beef sourced from small-scale regenerative farms here in America, so that you can feel good about what you are eating and what you are supporting. They've stripped out all of the junk. There's no preservatives, no gluten, soy, sugar, dairy, or GMOs, just clean, nutrient-dense fuel, the way that food was intended to be. So whether you are road tripping, working late, or running around with the kids, these sticks deliver high-protein energy without the crash. Whether you're keto, paleo, carnivore, it does not matter. Paleo Valley works with your lifestyle, not against it. They come in multiple bold flavors, including original, jalapeno, summer sausage, maple bacon, and teriyaki. So there's something for everyone. With over 55 million beef sticks sold, Paleo Valley is trusted, proven, and backed by a 60-day money-back guarantee. Right now, you can get 20% off your first order at paleovalley.com/Candace. And you can use code Candace at checkout. That's paleovalley.com/Candace, promo code Candace at checkout. Also reminding you guys about home title lock, because if you are a homeowner, you should probably know the FBI has been warning homeowners about.
In the 3 months since Charlie Kirk was murdered, I've really tried not to comment on the murder investigation in public. And it's not because I don't care, of course. I love Charlie and knew him well since he was a teenager. But I haven't said anything about it. I really tried not to say anything about it. First, because I don't really know anything that everyone else doesn't know. I've asked around, but of course, how do you know what the truth is? But the other reason I haven't said anything is because I know personally a number of the people involved in what's now become a very large story. I know them really well. And I really think a lot of all of them on every side. Candace Owens, I've known a long time. I love Candace Owens. Blake Neff at TPUSA once worked for me at a couple of different places, and I love Blake Neff. Erika Kirk, I've known since she was dating Charlie Kirk, and I love Erika Kirk. And I think these are all really, really decent people. And so it's been my desire for 3 months not to get involved in any of this. And in general, to think to myself, anybody who is earnestly searching for the truth, whether they're right or wrong, but as long as they're motivated by a desire to find out what happened and therefore honor Charlie's memory by getting to justice, anyone who's doing that, I'm not going to criticize. Again, no matter what track they're on, lots of us, and this has certainly happened to me, have good moments, but good motives, but wind up in the wrong place. But it's a sincere mistake. So that definitely happens. I have done that, and so I've just wanted to stay out. And then the other day, I had like a 3-hour conversation with Theo Vaughn, and it was not about Charlie Kirk or anything related to it, but that topic came up. And I said, in effect, I don't trust the FBI. And that gave some people the impression that I was, accusing them of being involved in Charlie's assassination. And of course, I wasn't. And I certainly didn't mean to. But it gives me the chance now to say what I think, which is that we should not necessarily trust the FBI. And by the way, why would we? It's not an attack on, the political leadership of it. I've known Dan Bongino, for example, for a long time, and like Dan, and don't imagine he would ever be involved in intentionally covering up a murder of somebody. I don't believe that. But Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, for that matter, are at the top of the org chart, but this is a huge organization, and parts of it act independently from leadership. That's the nature of bureaucracy. So saying, well, I like Dan Bongino and don't think he would do something wrong on purpose, which is how I feel, doesn't mean that I trust the FBI or have to trust the FBI. And again, why would I? If there's one lesson of the last election, the 2024 election, it's that a lot of our biggest systems, our biggest institutions have rot in them, and that needs to be reformed. And as if we needed more proof of it, we'd learned what a lot of us suspected for years, that January 6th was in effect a setup, and the FBI was key to that setup. And it's still not clear that everyone involved in that setup at the FBI has been fired or punished for that. So no person, no American is under some moral obligation to believe everything the government tells you, particularly institutions or agencies that have a long documented, factually documented track record of committing crimes, participating illegally in our political system, for example, as the FBI has done, manufacturing crimes, setting people up, distorting justice. That's the opposite of their job, of course, which is to get to justice through facts and then to tell the rest of us how they arrived at this conclusion, to prove to the rest of us that the right people are being punished. So we're not under any obligation. Of course, we shouldn't invent theories to discredit the FBI, but it's not enough to have government officials tell us, well, this is the truth. We have a right, probably an obligation, to say, well, can you prove it? And if you can't, I don't have to believe you. So if there's one thing that bothers me above all about the investigation into Charlie Kirk, is that is getting lost. As people argue over what happened, we are potentially letting our largest federal law enforcement agency off the hook. It is the job of the FBI to find out what happened and to tell the rest of us, not hide behind, well, it's national security, confidential sources. No, tell us what happened. Show us what happened. Convince us what happened. That's your job. And we shouldn't accept anything less. And by the way, when we do accept something less, then, new explanations fill the vacuum left by the FBI, which we pay to explain to us what happened. And so I'm going to really do my best not to talk about things I don't understand, state things as though I know them when I don't know them. I'm going to do my best to stay out of it because I love Charlie and I want justice to be done in this case. But the rest of us should remain skeptical. We have a duty to remain skeptical, and we should not be ashamed of our skepticism. Thanks.
Yeah, we're at that stage of a psychological operation. That's it. None of it's making sense. That is so well put. It is upside down land. Laughing Cats Music World writes, and thank you, by the way, that's a massive donation. Vital to separate flaws from race. We can criticize corrupt Jews without blanket anti-Semitism. Critiquing George Floyd because he died of fentanyl in the hospital isn't hating black people. Stop equating criticism of Israel, Soros, etc., with Jew-hating or self-hating. If you're Jewish and critical of all governments, including Israel, most people are not racist. And then this person is making the joke, maybe Blake Neff. I didn't look into the Blake Neff thing or why he left Fox News because I'm just more interested in his military connections because that caught me by surprise. But you are absolutely on the money. Obviously, we can criticize people And this sort of cheap tactic of being like, oh, well, it's kind of the same thing we're talking about. It's emotional manipulation. It's like, whoa, what are you saying? And it's like, no, there is corruption everywhere. And you are not removed from corruption because of who you work for, what you look like, what sex you are. It is always plausible and actually highly plausible, typically when money is involved. Lulu Mallory writes, the more I watch, the more fake and gay things are. We all have been given the light of Christ to discern truth from lies. Candace speaks truth. Go Max, Candace. Charlie deserves nothing less. You are correct. And I don't trust the feds. And I don't believe that is a sufficient enough answer that, well, we're telling the feds to do that. Well, I can tell you the feds are not doing that, because I was the one who said I had the information about the French Foreign Legion being on the ground the day that Charlie was assassinated. And the feds have not reached out to me. So shouldn't that concern Erika? Shouldn't she be like, hey, why didn't you reach out to me and say, like, hey, I'd like that information if no one's reached out to you? Like, why is that not happening? This is what I mean when I say that the reaction doesn't feel to the public as what we, and yeah, I'm generalizing here because there is such a thing as a general response, what we would do in the same circumstance. Like, we would be like, whoa, even if I trusted the feds and I trusted my legal team and trusted their analysis that there was just one person involved, as soon as some podcaster was like, hey, I found Egyptian planes and they're being kind of shady, I would be like, whoa, that is weird. What's up with these Egyptian planes? They're just making jokes. That there's something not right with that, like making jokes about something that if you should be concerned at the very least about, even if it turned out that it led nowhere, which it has not turned out that it led nowhere. It actually led somewhere and it's been confirmed. Why are you not concerned? I just need an answer for why they are never concerned. Meryl Gerstenmeyer writes, it seems to me Erika's moral outrage is manufactured more for an elite target audience as opposed to those normal folks who want to solve the actual murder. It does feel, I would say it feels elite. I don't have time for the little people, okay? I don't have time for, you small pocket donors. I got time, but like, it's going to be spent with power. It's going to be spent in the West Wing. It's going to be spent raising $40 million at Mar-a-Lago. When we say building, what we mean is like a financial arsenal. And it's easier to appease people who are billionaires than to build a grassroots movement. That's what Turning Point USA was. It's not anymore, clearly, but it was a grassroots organization. That was the pitch. That was why I worked for them. The idea that you could get on the ground when nobody knew us, nobody knew me and Charlie, and we could get on stage and we could convince people of what we believed in, okay? Every conversation mattered. In those times, every debate mattered. Every feeling that a person had, even if it was valid or not valid, it mattered. And now we get the sense that this is the RNC. So if you ain't spending for a table, you ain't getting a response, okay? Because we busy. We very busy. H. Biz writes, who was the woman in the pickup truck? I don't know who the woman was in the pickup truck. You're referring to what Harry, Harry thinks he has an idea and he should come out and he should share his story. I would be interested to see if he is, like I said, I can tell you he was factually there, that the meeting happened now exactly as he said it happened at exactly what time he says it happened. I cannot confirm.
Let me hit some other items that are in the news around the FBI. I'll start with the one that's probably most important to our audience, and that's the Charlie Kirk investigation, Cash. Obviously, this audience includes huge fans of Charlie's. He came on the show once every 3 weeks for years. And so we're all watching that one very carefully. Let me start with this, the most obvious. Do you believe that we have the proper suspect in custody? Do you believe that Tyler Robinson is, in fact, the man who killed Charlie Kirk?
Yes.
Do you believe he acted with the help of anyone else?
This investigation is being led by the Utah state authorities because it is a murder investigation. So the FBI is a supporting role in the investigative process. And so what we're doing is the same thing we did in the pipe bomb investigation. The investigation is ongoing for us. If there's any new leads or tips, we are exhausting them with search warrants and legal process. But at the same time, we are working with the prosecutors in Utah to make sure we don't screw up their investigation. Because again, the worst outcome would be if the guy that killed Charlie Kirk walks out of a United States courtroom in the state of Utah. And so it's a delicate balance again, but there is no way this FBI is going to stop that investigation until it reaches its all-conclusive endpoint.
Do you believe any foreign government had a role in his assassination?
At this time, the FBI doesn't have credible information to connect any foreign governments to it. But as I said, we are continuing to take investigative leads. We're not done. Just because we arrest someone, just like in the pipe bomber case, we don't just say, okay, we're done, on to the next. The investigative team continues to work with the Utah authorities, and they're deriving their own leads and coming back to us and say, hey, can you look at this piece of information? Can we get a search warrant on this account? What about this individual who is located in X, Y, or Z? We're tracking all that down.
Do you have any credible reason to believe that anyone connected with the Turning Point organization had anything to do with Charlie's death?
Zero.
On the subject, there's been an allegation made by prominent podcaster Candace Owens that she's received a death threat, a credible death threat from the French, that a threat has been made on her life, and that the French, she's been told, also may have had a role in Charlie's assassination. Have you looked into either of those? Do you believe she's received a credible death threat from the French, or that the French had something potentially to do with Charlie's death?
Any American that receives a death threat from overseas or anywhere in America is going to be fully investigated. So we're not going to turn our eye away from that investigation or any others. If there's anything to it, this FBI will respond to it.
Okay, but so far, no.
So we are just looking at everything that comes in. We're not going to reject any piece of information. If someone feels that their life is being threatened, we are, of course, looking at it.
I can verify that myself, because we've received some very dark things here at our show, and you guys have always been very responsive in looking hard at the people who send them. Can I ask you, Cash, the text messages between Tyler Robinson and his roommate Lance Twiggs, the reason a lot of people think Tyler didn't do it is because they sound kind of fake. You know, the wording just sounds a little strange. Like, I thought they caught the person, or no, you weren't the one who did it, right? I am. I'm sorry. They go on from there. Why did I do it? Yeah, I had enough of his hatred, and so on. Do you have any reason to believe that text exchange was not real between them for whatever reason, potentially even having been orchestrated between the two of them?
Look, I understand the emotion behind this case. Charlie was my friend. He was your friend. He was assassinated in the most brutal way in a public forum where he was trying to have engagement with the youth of the United States of America. And while I was representing the White House at Ground Zero in New York City on 9/11, we made the decision to pivot immediately and fly out to Utah to make sure we executed this manhunt. We went out there, the FBI seized the video evidence and put it out to the public immediately. And then this individual was caught in 33 hours. And so I understand that there's so much charged emotion on the other evidence that was collected, the notes that you were talking about, the text message, excuse me. And we present that information to the prosecutors to make the determination based on the evidence we have as to whether or not they were real. I can't stylize or comment on it because it's an ongoing investigation, but I don't believe the prosecutors in the state of Utah would be using any piece of information or evidence that was not credible.
Last but not least on Charlie, there were texts by certain trans individuals online before the assassination talking about something big is going to be happening, and then after he was killed saying, and there it is, leading many of us to wonder whether there was some sort of trans-Tifa connection to the murder, or at least maybe some tip-off to the community. Is that under investigation?
That is most definitely under investigation, and we've disclosed a lot of that to the prosecution, or all of it that we have, and they've made some of it public to include that he was in a relationship with an individual who was part of that community, and that he was engaged in communications with other individuals in that community. But as to how they relate to the prosecution, that's up to the Utah prosecutors to say, we need this in court, and we're going to hold it till we release it, till his trial.
Ever read the label on a typical bag of chips? It's often a science experiment of seed oils, MSG, artificial dyes, and mystery ingredients. Masa is part of the growing movement to bring back real food. Masa chips contain
These people have Charlie Kirk's blood on their hands. I don't believe there's any reforming these people. I don't believe there's any shaming these people. I think these people need to be defeated.
You've posted some messages about Charlie Kirk on your Instagram, and you're laughing.
If he had spent a modicum of his time focusing on the white youth, that perhaps he would still be with us today.
Charlie was a friend, a mentor of mine. To sit here today and listen to the discussions, I mean, I am just like in total disbelief.
I've been told all week he would have hated someone like you. No, he would have respected me because I'm my own person and I know how to have my own thoughts.
Oh, I can't even go to the grocery store alone anymore. I can't even walk my dog without a gun.
President Trump is in the UK for an historic second state visit. The world's most famous royal family is hosting the world's most famous president for to you on a personal level for the loss of Charlie Kirk, because I watched you on the day it happened. I saw how emotional you were. I saw how much this had personally affected you, and it really moved me. And so, just on a human level, I'm really sorry for you and your loss at losing your friend. Just turning to the reaction, though, so many parts of this really concern me. Obviously, the killing itself, horrific, that someone should be shot dead for their opinions. The way that so many on the woke left, young people, so gleefully race to celebrate this on social media, joyously celebrating and reveling in this brutal murder of a young father. And then to watch the very liberal skewed mainstream media, you and I have talked about this a lot, but look at the tortured ways they are trying so hard to avoid saying the obvious about this shooter and trying to find something, anything, to excuse what he did. All of it is grotesque.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for that, Piers. It was a devastating day and unlike anything I've ever experienced or want to experience again. You know, Charlie and I weren't the kind of friends who were meeting for dinner, but I'd had him on my show over 15 times in the past year and a half. Like, I'd had him on tons of times. I'd been on his show tons of times. We did a bunch of Turning Point events together, and I spoke with him many times backstage. And so I felt like I knew him as a friend and knew what he stood for. Not to mention all the countless hours I've seen him on these college campuses and all the prep you do when somebody's coming on your show. So I do feel like I knew who he was. I really do. And he was total goodness. I mean, he was truly a happy warrior. The picture that's being painted of him by his detractors now bears no resemblance whatsoever to the man I knew. And they didn't. They didn't. Because I see the few who will bother to offer evidence of their views that he was this terrible guy, a racist, what have you. It's helpful. I appreciate when they say why they thought that. Because I'm familiar with almost all of the incidents that they used to batter Charlie, and they're fake. It's fake news. Charlie was honestly the most optimistic person in our movement. I mean, I was saying to Tucker last night, I say it to you too, I think the rest of us are way more cynical mofos than Charlie ever was. You know, we've been in the business a long time. We're pretty cynical. That's what happens to you when you're a news person. Charlie wasn't a news person. He was like a prophet in some ways who was speaking the good word while using those biblical principles to try to persuade people over to his political worldview. And it gave him like an optimism and a happiness and a joy and a benevolent kindness in dealing with these kids on college campuses that, frankly, the rest of us have probably lost a long time ago. At least I certainly have. And that leads me to my point in response to your second points. I don't believe there's any reforming these people. I don't believe there's any shaming these people. I don't believe reaching out across the aisle will do anything to improve things with these people. I think these people need to be defeated and we need to move on from them. You know, I don't want anything bad to happen to them, but the answer, as far as I can see, is to grow our own ranks. That's it. We have to drown out their voices. We have to answer their voices with our own. We have to grow more conservatives and independents who are sane and would never back political violence. There's so many people I detest on the left. I mean, it's a long list, whose death I would never dream of celebrating. Never. There's only one right response when somebody gets assassinated or murdered, and it's, my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for their family and their friends. What is the world coming to? And so
there's no convincing them they've made an error or that we should all get along and they shouldn't celebrate our deaths. We just have to keep saying all the things that we've been saying and say it louder and more compellingly and do it from fortified spaces so that we cannot be hurt while doing it.
Yeah, even as we were still poring over the horrific fallout from Charlie's murder, you saw the scenes outside the courtroom for Luigi Mangione, right? Who, for some bizarre reason, having walked up to a guy he didn't know, a health executive, and assassinated him in cold blood. For some reason, he's become a hero to these people on the woke left, to the extent that when the terrorism charges were dropped against him, they were all out here doing this, celebrating, dancing in the streets. Like this was a joyous moment to be alive. Uncensored is supported by OneSkin, a self-care business founded by scientists. Their patented OS1 peptide is scientifically proven to target aging at the cellular level. It's what powers their skin and sun care products. Now it's targeting age-related hair loss and thinning too. OneSkin Scalp Serum, OS1 Hair, is getting rave reviews, as you can read for yourself. And it's not just talk. OneSkin scientists did a clinical study showing that after 6 months, participants had significantly thicker and denser hair. If you're ready to give OS1 Hair a try, you can get 15% off your first 3-month supply with the code PEERS at oneskin.co.
I'm sorry, but these people have Charlie Kirk's blood on their hands. They 100% have Charlie Kirk's blood on their hands, because this is what you get. When you celebrate political violence, you get more of it. What do you think this shooter, Charlie's shooter, thought was going to happen to him? He thought that he would become a hero amongst certain pockets on the left. And he has. Just go on blue sky. And that foments more political violence. I mean, there should be universal condemnation. Universal condemnation. Now the left is saying, oh, well, it's cancel culture to fire people who are celebrating Charlie's death. That's ridiculous. If you want to say you didn't believe Charlie was a good guy and you didn't believe in his messages, go for it. You shouldn't be fired from your job for that. But if you are celebrating the murder, the political assassination of anyone, you absolutely should be fired. Who in their right mind would continue employing you or want you to be around their clients or customers or fellow employees?
It's really interesting, Megan, you say that. I just had that very conversation with my team here, right, when we were prepping for today's show. And I said, I'd just done a podcast and I was like ruminating about how I'd responded to this. And I said, to me, the line is very clear, which is that free speech doesn't cover incitement to violence or acts of violence or anything to do with actual violence. And I'll come to what J.K. Rowling has said today about speech being violent and how absurd that is because of what it leads to. But I said, when it comes to free speech, though, it doesn't mean you're not accountable for things you then say, right?
That's right.
You could be protected from any legal ramifications against you by a government. That's why Pam Bondi was so insane to say what she said.
Correct.
Because she didn't seem to understand the law or the First Amendment. A little worrying with an attorney general, even as she's now tried to backtrack. But the reality is, if you're a doctor, a nurse, a professor at Harvard, if you're a teacher in a kindergarten school, whatever it may be, if you have a job like that, and you are seen gleefully celebrating somebody's murder, then it is highly likely your employer will take a view that you are inappropriate for that position. And I said to my team, if one of you said this, honestly, if one of you reveled publicly on social media in somebody's murder like this, I said, I wouldn't want you here. And we all kind of agreed. Nobody would want that person there. But that's not an infringement of your free speech rights in terms of a government coming after you or the law. It's just accountability for what you say with employers.
And frankly, let me put it one step further. As somebody who used to practice law for 10 years, if you had someone on your staff who openly celebrated a political assassination and made the point that murder can be good depending on its aims and its intent, and you continued employing that person, and then they hurt somebody else on your staff who may have said something politically that they didn't like, you'd be sued. There'd be a good case against you for allowing it, for continuing to endanger the employees who work for you. There's every incentive to get rid of somebody who doesn't show basic humanity. That doesn't seem to be too much to ask. And again, that is to be distinguished from people who just say, I didn't like him. I don't believe you're saying the right legacy
about Charlie, I'll fight you on whether he was good or bad. That's fine. That's quintessentially American. I think that's well within the bounds of appropriate speech, even in the wake of a tragic death like this. I don't like it. I don't think it's the right timing. I definitely did not think after Luigi Mangione killed Brian Thompson of United Healthcare, it was the time to debate whether our insurance companies are good or bad.
Right.
Maybe we can have that discussion, but you don't have that in response to the political violence, or you encourage more of it.
Correct.
But the loss of humanity is A, both fireable, and B, deeply troubling. And it's growing. And there were 2 recent surveys of our country and where people stand on whether political violence is ever justified. And one showed that 55% of liberals said it is, and one showed that 34% of liberals said it is. And both surveys showed very low single digits, like 7% of Republicans say sometimes it is. So this is a leftist problem. And the reason it remains a problem, I mean, there's many reasons why it's a problem, but the reason it remains a problem is the thing that you just showed, where the left, first of all, refused to accept, as we saw early on, first of all, it was Charlie Kirk who was shot. It was not some left-wing member of the squad. God forbid. I don't want anything to happen to them either. It was Charlie Kirk. It was very clear, Occam's razor, the likelihood of why this guy was killed. And then it came out what was on the bullet casings, which were very clearly leftist messages, which they refused to accept on the left-wing media. They tried to say he might have been a Groyper, which is a far-right person who follows Nick Fuentes. That was obviously not true given what was written on these bullet casings. And the bullet casing that shot Charlie, from the bullet that shot Charlie, was Notices Bulges, OWO, which is a furry meme. And the furry culture is very closely linked to the trans culture. And many of us went out there and called a spade and said that's how this appears to be. The left melted down. Can't possibly be. And then sure enough, what do we find out? That the shooter has a trans/furry, quote, boyfriend who's in the middle of transitioning from male to female, which, by the way, is not a thing, cannot be done, and is writing him love notes about there's too much hate coming out of Charlie, and he's fallen into left-wing ideology. And now the left messaging, instead of saying, okay, you were right, sorry, we're going to really have to take a look at our own messaging around these issues, says, what does it matter? Juliet Kayyem, what does it really matter what the motivation was? You know, maybe he was just some nutcase. And that's my final point. He wasn't a nutcase. I am totally open-minded to it was a nutcase. And you really can't ascribe too much to the particular motivations. I mean, at some level, everybody who takes another person's life in this fashion has to be a bit off. But this guy wasn't, Piers. He wasn't one of those guys, like take the guy who killed the poor Irina on the light rail train in North Carolina. Clearly, that man is mentally deranged and may have had other motivations that were connected to his mental derangement. But this is not a sane person. It's very clear. The issue in that case is judges who wouldn't lock him up, knowing that he was insane, just turned him back out on the rest of us because they knew he was violent, a criminal, and insane. The issue here is there's no hint of insanity. This guy seems to have been very much together. This was truly a political assassination. And I heard Charles C.W. Cook of National Review say it beautifully, which was, you look back at why Reagan was killed by John Hinckley, not killed, shot by John Hinckley. He was a nutcase. He went to the mental asylum. He was doing it to impress Jodie Foster. That's not somebody who's moved by political rhetoric against Reagan. But look at who killed Martin Luther King. That was political violence. He was against the civil rights movement. He was a racist. Yes, the motivation does matter. The left would never dispute that if you held those 2 cases up. And this case seems pretty clear. We're dealing with a sane young man who was politically motivated to take down Charlie Kirk. How did he get there? What were the influences? Totally fair questions that need to be honestly answered.
100%. Just a final point before I let you go, Megan. I know you've got a busy day. The language that people have used on the left for so long about Trump and Trump supporters, Hitler, Nazis, fascists, when you see the anti-fascist insignia on the bullets, was one of the bullets, I've felt for a long time that if you keep using those analogies, those grotesque analogies about Trump and his supporters, then eventually people on the left who are slightly unhinged, who've been radicalized, they're going to think logically in their twisted way. They're going to think, well, if this is actually the new Hitler, if these really are the new Nazis, they represent an existential threat to America, I need to kill them. I mean, it's a logical way to look at it if you genuinely believe they are Hitler and the Nazis or the new fascists. And that's been my issue with that language for so long. And it's got to stop, hasn't it? Because I can see how a twisted mind hears that all the time and believes it.
Yes, and yet there will be no stopping them. If they didn't learn that lesson after Butler, they're not going to learn that lesson.
Right.
They really believe it. First of all, some collection of them really believes that Trump and his supporters are fascists and all white supremacists and Nazis. So they're not going to back off of it. They're committed to that rhetoric because they think it's truthful. And secondly, there is a part of them that is enjoying the political violence. You know, I mean, back to the polls I just referenced, there is an unhealthy faction on the left that would like to see more people on the right get killed, actually get killed. And honestly, you look at the difference between right now, the left is bringing up the murder of this House Speaker in the state of Minnesota a few months ago, this terrible murder by a nutcase. This guy was nuts. Okay, it's back to the crazy people who are out there everywhere in the world. The difference between that murder and Charlie Kirk's murder is there wasn't a single solitary right-winger who celebrated that woman's death. And there wasn't a single solitary right-winger who demonized her as fascist or Nazi or what, pick your term, prior to her death. She was the victim of a crazed madman who, if anything, said he was motivated by the Democratic governor, Tim Walz, and him telling him to get demons. But the point is, the reactions, both before and after the assassination, were markedly different. Just like on the hate speech comment by Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi got shamed out of her position yesterday by the right because most of us on the right are consistent with our positioning. And when we heard her say such an asinine, inane thing, we clobbered one of our own. The left wing doesn't do that. And while I've received lots of nice messages from some more reasonable leftists in response to Charlie's assassination, and I do appreciate it, it's not enough to feel it privately. You have to police your own side. You have power over your lefties in a way I don't. So I can't fix it even if I want to. And I don't actually believe I think it's fool's gold to even try. But I'd love to see them give it an effort on the left.
Megan, it's great to have you. You're going out on tour for the first time with your brilliant show. I was booked to appear with you in Miami. Some people have said to me, because of all this, will I still be appearing with you in Miami? And the answer is yes, because frankly, to all those who want to intimidate people like us from not being able to express our honestly held opinions, fuck them. So I will see you in Miami.
You gave me the chills. I love you for saying that and for doing that. And yeah, come hell or high water, I will see you in Miami.
I look forward to it. Take care, Megan.
You too.
US national debt is more than $37 trillion. And these are uncertain times for the global economy. It's enough to make you think. Maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold. Whether it's a hedge against inflation, peace of mind during global instability, or just sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes that every American should own physical gold. And they created something special. Until the 30th of September, if you're a first-time buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To start the process, request a free information kit now. Just text PEERS horrified by what happened to Charlie Kirk.
Absolutely. I was on the air, Pierce, when it all happened. I got emotional. The first thing I thought about were his kids and his family. This is not only bad for Charlie Kirk, obviously, and bad for his family. It's bad for America. And I also feel for everybody that was traumatized, that was there that day, that had to see that. Now, with that being said, of course, I didn't agree with basically anything that Charlie Kirk stands for. But with that being said, anybody that's celebrating his death, I think that's despicable and it's disgusting. And I've called that out, and I've been very consistent on my opinions since day one. If there's civil discourse and having political debate, I enjoy doing this show, Pierce, and I enjoy having respectful discussions with people that I disagree with. So this is a horrible, horrible situation. We could never condone political violence, no matter what side of the aisle it comes from.
Why have so many people on the far left, the woke left, been so brazen in their gleeful celebration of what happened to Charlie Kirk?
Well, my response to that, number one, is I'm not on the far left, so I certainly don't speak for them. But there's people on both sides of the aisle. I know Republicans don't want to hear that, but there are crazy lunatics on both sides of the aisle that celebrate really horrible things that happen to people in America. I don't agree with them. And if you're on the far left or the far right, and you celebrate anybody getting murdered, then there's something wrong with you. And I don't feel bad for any of those people that were fired for celebrating his death. I think it's disgusting. Now, if you're just talking about him and saying, well, he wasn't a good guy, here's why I didn't like him, here are some of his quotes that he said in the past, I don't say to call out political violence and say Charlie Kirk didn't deserve this. I feel for his family, but I didn't like Charlie Kirk and I didn't like what he stood for. I think you could make both points respectfully.
Okay, Luke has been pointed out to me that you've posted some messages about Charlie Kirk on your Instagram, which we're going to show here. One is a post that's a parody of a Jubilee debate. I'm doing one of these myself soon, titled Charlie Kirk versus Bullet. Can one bullet to the neck outsmart one conservative? Well, that was a short watch. Number two is a mocked up promotion poster called Kirk and Twerk at Neck of the Woods and hashtagged both Charlie Kirk and his widow. And the third was an image of a sunrise titled God Works in Mysterious Ways with the hashtag Charlie Kirk killing and praying hands as an emoji. And you're laughing as I show these. Why do you find this funny?
Well, let me just say that I actually am a big advocate for dark humor. And I happen to have gotten a bit of a taste of that over the last, I don't know, maybe decade or so when it came to the right and their memes of George Floyd. Happy birthday being sober for 5 years. When they came to their memes of Breonna Taylor, when it came to their memes of Trayvon Martin, the Trayvon challenge, right? When it came to their memes of Tamir Rice. So I don't know what the issue is. I think I'm engaging in the freedom of speech that the right has been advocating for these last 10 years and mocking and making light of Black death, something that Charlie Kirk himself did time and time again. As a matter of fact, I would argue that if Charlie Kirk, instead of focusing his time on Black culture and Black on Black crime, if he had spent a modicum of his time focusing on the white youth, that perhaps he would still be with us today.
Are you pleased he's dead?
No, absolutely not.
So how did you feel about his murder?
I don't think.
How did you feel about his murder?
How do I feel about his murder?
Yeah.
Well, I think a quote by a great author sums up the sentiment of millions of Americans around the world. And that is, some cause happiness wherever they go, others when they go. And I think that's a sentiment that is palpable amongst many Americans around the world due to the hate and vitriol and bile that Charlie Kirk sowed. So I think there was a pastor
just to be clear, unless I misheard you, then you are happy he died.
No, I don't think as far as happiness is an emotion that
you literally just read me a quote which implies you're happy. You talked about some people's death bring happiness.
The purpose of the quote was to say that there are some people who have caused harm and death and turmoil to other groups of people, such as Charlie Kirk, whether it's Black people, whether it's, trans people.
No, I heard the quote.
The list
just to be
goes on.
clear, you said that the quote ends in that their death brings happiness, but you've denied that you were happy. But when you tell me a quote
I don't disagree that
when you
there
tell
are
me a quote
people
like
who
that,
are-
I presume from that quote you're implying that actually you are happy he died because he deserved it. He had it coming.
No, not at all. I don't think those are ever words that I've ever mentioned verbatim ever. I think there is a sentiment that when someone who lives their life in evil and wickedness, according to the scripture, the power of life and death is in your tongue. And the hate and the vile and the venom that he spewed, I don't know what to tell you. As the scripture says, as he professed, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. I think his focus should have been on a community that, clearly is in problem. That I find it interesting that there's more scrutiny on people who may make memes that they've done of George Floyd and other Black victims than on the white male youth that did this tragedy, as some would call it. I think
Why would you be offended about the memes to people like George Floyd, which I found contemptible at the time, if they're the same ones that you're talking about? Why would you profess to be offended by those if you're quite happy to do the same kind of thing yourself?
I think the point that I'm making by the means that I'm putting out, which clearly has caused outrage and triggering, I find it a bit hypocritical that the people for years who said fuck your feelings are now overwhelmed with feelings at the moment. But the point that I was making was to point out the hypocrisy that the right has on a variety and myriad of issues, as we just saw with Pam Bondi on the freedom of speech. I think the issue is that they have scapegoated people like Pam Bondi for what is the crime of Donald Trump. The same thing they did with Anthony Fauci. We saw this when it came to the Second Amendment. They banned bump stock ban. They had a bump stock ban under Donald Trump while they were fear-mongering about Biden take away your guns. But as we saw, there was no outrage, there was no protest, and we come to find out that it was unconstitutional. So I think this hypocrisy is ubiquitous within the right, and I think my memes expose that hypocrisy.
And what about your own personal humanity? I mean, hashtagging his widow in a mocked-up promotion poster of Kirk and Twerk at Neck of the Woods. How do you justify targeting... hang on. How do you justify targeting his widow?
I think that's a bit disingenuous to use such hyperbolic language as targeting. I think it's more of a strategic plan of attack to get the message out to more people. When we saw Erika Kirk, she had a moment to speak for unity within the country, left and right, and she chose to fundraise. She then chose to use the scripture and talk, very nicely of her, past husband. And I understand that. But by that same token, there are people who were absolutely harmed by the rhetoric that Charlie Kirk put out. And that rhetoric actually codified in many cases in many states. So I think it's abhorrent and actually perverse to expect people who are harmed by his rhetoric, harmed by someone who had anti-black, anyone who wasn't white and Christian in his perspective. I think it's perverse to try and criticize those people or try and make them seem as if they're the bad guys when that's
but you see,
not
funny
the
enough,
case.
I can look at what you've done and I can see somebody who is abhorrent and despicable and actually evil, actually. The stuff when you target someone's widow as she grieves and
Once
tries
again,
to
I
protect
disagree
her
with the
two
word
children.
targeting.
No. I'm talking about me. I'm talking about me personally, my view of what you've done. I don't care about your motivation in terms of other people's inappropriate memes, many of which I may well agree with you about. But that doesn't mean that I then go and do it myself or worse, because that makes me even more inhuman and abhorrent, and by your definition,
I disagree. I think there's
evil.
a point.
I know you disagree. I'm just telling you. When it comes
to Republicans, when it comes to conservatives,
hang on.
they have to see.
I've let you have your say.
I think I'm a mirror.
I've let you have your
what
say.
they have shown.
I'll let you have your say.
And if they don't like what they see,
telling
then
you,
they should actually detour
fine.
from
I'm
their
using
wicked
your
path
own. I'm using your own justification
compassion.
to tell you what I think of you and what you've done. All right? That's my free speech at work. Let me bring in Gillian
I absolutely
Michaels.
agree.
I mean, Gillian, look. I saw Brian there nodding to some of what he was hearing there, not all, to be clear, but nodding to some of it about the hypocrisy which Lucas claims he is exposing with this stuff. What is your view of what he's said? It's not just how the news is told, but what's left out, which concerns me. And when a friend in the business recommended I try Ground News, I gave it a go. Quite honestly, I was impressed. It does something brilliant, which most news platforms are afraid to do.
All right, Charlie Kirk's final book that he finished only 1 month before his assassination. It is now out in bookstores around the country. Stop in the Name of God.
There's been a back and forth now between Erika Kirk and Candace Owens. And I want to ask you guys about the politics of this, the politics of it, and also the politics of Israel, because those two things right now are dividing the conservative movement and some inside of it. And now it's gone beyond the back and forth between like a Candace and the Turning Point group into this is going to cost us the midterms. The midterms, you guys are the politics experts. So I'm going to set up the underlying argument on which you do not need to opine, but I'm going to ask you for your take on the politics of it. So for the audience, here is what happened. Something extraordinary happened yesterday. And just FYI, I am going to have more to say very soon on what's happening between Erika Kirk and Turning Point on the one hand and Candace on the other. Not today, but very soon. And I have my reasons for that. So Erika went on with Harris Faulkner yesterday in, again, promoting Charlie's book. And she said the thing that Candace had said from the beginning Candace needed to hear in order to stop with blaming Turning Point for Charlie's assassination. For the listening audience, we have a man in custody for the Charlie Kirk assassination. His name is Tyler Robinson. He will be in court today in a couple of hours on a hearing about whether and what access the media should have to this trial. We'll be covering that for you tomorrow. And Erika, as fired up as I've seen her on this, clearly addressed Candace directly without saying her name. And I know for a fact this was an address to Candace, and Candace knew it too because she responded to it. Here is Erika Kirk. This is how Erika teed it up. Hold on a second. Yeah, no, let's start with SOT 9. SOT 9.
But here's my breaking point on that. Come after me, call me names, I don't care. Call me what you want, go down that rabbit hole, whatever. But when you go after my family, my Turning Point USA family, my Charlie Kirk Show family, when you go after the people that I love, and you're making hundreds and thousands of dollars every single episode going after the people that I love because somehow they're in on this, no.
You know, I have to say it. I've never seen you like this.
No, this is righteous anger because this is not okay. It's not healthy. This is a mind virus.
Okay, I'm just going to add another one. SOT 7.
I do not have time to address the noise. My silence does not mean that I am complacent. My silence does not mean that somehow Turning Point USA and all of the handpicked staff that loved my husband and my husband loved them is somehow in on it. We are busy building. And you know what I thought? I thought these people are human. We are all grieving in our own way. And they are trying to find the answer to something that happened that was so evil. They are trying so hard. And I get that. We're doing the same. Anytime we hear a lead or anytime we hear anything, we send it to the authorities. Please dig into this. No rock will be unturned. I want justice for my husband, for myself, for my family, more than anyone else out there. So for me, you want to keep telling me to come down while we're building? I don't have time for that.
And not last but not least, a bit of the Candace response here in SOT 8.
First and foremost, the idea that she does not have time. Okay, she definitely has time, okay? She's done Hannity, she's done The Five, she's done Fox and Friends, she's done Outnumbered, she's done Megyn Kelly Live, she sat down with the New York Times. She made time, by the way, in case you don't remember, to fly to D.C. for Sergio Gore to be sworn into the ambassador to India. Erika Kirk has time. She has time. It is just what she means to say, not her priority, which is you are allowed to prioritize things in your own life. But this is not a matter of time constraint. It is not her priority to respond to the majority, actually. The majority of people think of this as BS. The majority of people think Turning Point is acting suspicious. And she does not feel that it is what she wants to do as a matter of priority, responding. Okay, that's fine. This is why there are many people who do not believe that women are equipped to lead companies, because what you are watching here is an unbelievably emotional response that is absent of any logic, okay? If you really care about your team, answer the questions, okay? Just demystify the entire event. Answer, come out, sit down, answer the questions so people don't think Turning Point USA looks so suspicious.
Okay. Turning Point USA was, I don't think there was a more important organization in getting Donald Trump elected last time around in terms of get out the vote, especially when it came to young people. Charlie delivered the youth vote to Trump in a way we hadn't seen Republicans win for many years. And they're still going strong. They've taken a ton of donations since Charlie's death, and Erika is determined to lead that organization into the next decade in as robustly as Charlie would have. So them constantly being under attack by Candace and her followers for having had something to do with Charlie's death, which is her theory, among other theories, actually could have somewhat of an impact, but will it? And that's where this has devolved, because like people like Tim Pool are openly warring with Candace, saying "F you." He says he's calling her terrible names, saying this is going to cost us the midterms. And her response is, "I don't care. I don't care about the elections. I'm trying to figure out what happened to my friend." You heard what Erika Kirk had to say, and I really do wonder if you think that comes right on the heels of this big divide over Israel within the conservative movement that really fractured the movement in part. Does it have a role, guys? I mean, or is it really just about Trump's approval rating, tariffs, quote, affordability, and all the traditional stuff that would decide whether Republicans win or lose as the party in power? Who would like to take that gem first?
I will step into the ring here.
We always make Tom take the hardest questions.
Right.
And then I clean up after him.
Well, that's what happened to Tom's hair.
Yeah, right. Gosh, if I had any hair, I'd be pulling it out at this point over this whole thing. I mean,
you look hot.
I don't mind opining about the event itself. I mean, Candace calls herself, a friend of Charlie. With friends like this, I mean, you don't need enemies. I mean, what she's doing is just unbelievably toxic and evil, in my opinion. I mean, she had said previously, look, if Erika Kirk tells me to stop, I'll stop. And Erika Kirk basically said, stop. And she said, you know what? I'm not going to stop. And why don't you answer my questions? I mean, it's never ending. It's ongoing. It is a distraction, but I do wonder, I know Candace has a big audience. I don't know how big it is in terms of having some sort of impact on the overall political landscape. I do think, look, this election and the next election are going to be based on what the public writ large cares about, and that is affordability, it's inflation, it's gas prices and all of that. Trump's approval rating for sure, and Democrats and their ability to leverage that stuff against the Republican Party in these midterms and then again in 2028. I do think, though, Megan, when you talk about sort of the youth movement and how Charlie had it sort of unified and moving in one direction and moving toward Trump, Trump was the cool guy to vote for in 2024 in a way that we hadn't seen in a long time on the Republican side. That has kind of frayed, and the Israel piece has divided the party in the aftermath of 2024. That's an ongoing thing, and that could have an impact on Republican turnout among young voters and on the margins. Though certainly in 2026, it's going to be more. It's going to be a low turnout election, so every vote's going to matter as they always do in midterms. But I just don't think this Candace Owens thing. It's pretty dramatic because it is so, as I said, in my opinion, it's despicable what she's doing. And it's getting a lot of headlines. But in terms of its impact on the Republican Party overall, I don't think it's going to have much.
I'll say one other thing to your point. Trump became like the cool guy to vote for in 2024 among the youth, in large part thanks to Charlie and Turning Point. Yep. And that also did in part depend on Charlie himself. Like Charlie, when I was talking to his staff when I went out there to host his show, I think this happened live on the air, but they were talking about how Charlie loved listening to classical music. They kept trying to play country music for him out there. They live in Arizona. And he was like, I don't like it. I want my classical music. Then he had a couple of other things. Like his late night snack, Erika told me, it was like a banana and olives. Like he was squeaky clean, And I joked with the Turning Point staff, like, so what you're saying is he was a nerd. And they would not even say that in jest. They were like, no. Like Charlie was an alpha male. And it was important to Charlie that alpha men return to the national scene. And that actually also made it cool to vote Republican, Tom. Like that swagger, Charlie's swagger, and like he was cool. That also was attractive, I think, to a lot of young people. We saw that too with the young men in particular after he died.
Absolutely. And he's irreplaceable. I mean, he had this sort of charisma. He was a rock star. I mean, my daughter was on the ASU campus and she told me a story. She was walking by and there's this huge crowd. And she was like, oh my gosh, who's here? It was Charlie. It was Charlie just answering questions. I mean, he attracted these huge crowds wherever he went. He was a magnet. He had this magnetic personality. And that simply cannot be replaced. And so, when you're talking about motivating young voters to go turn out for the Republican Party in 26 and 28, yeah, I mean, it's a big loss. It's a big loss that he's not the one doing it.
It's the loss.
Yeah.
That's the loss, not necessarily this back and forth.
That's right.
But I do wonder, guys. I mean, you're the political experts. What do you think, Andrew and Carl?
Go ahead.
Carl,
Andy.
you want to go?
You go, Andy, first. Then I'll go.
Well, I think Tom's basically right about if you talk about the midterms, and then in 2028, a lot will come down to who the candidates are. Candidate quality really matters. So we'll see who the Democrats put up. But I do think that this split around Israel, especially for young people, is something to keep an eye on. Maybe not in 26, 28, but in the long term. It's very dangerous, I think. And I do think that what I've seen from talking to young people, especially young men who really identified with Charlie Kirk, that this part of the message is resonating, this sort of anti-Israel message. And that, dangerously close to anti-Semitism if it isn't straight out anti-Semitism.
It's way past anti-Semitism,
right?
Andy.
So, I'm trying to be.
I don't agree with that at all, but you finish your point.
Anyway, but so I guess overall, I would say I think the midterms are going to turn on the economy. I think this healthcare issue is much bigger than, and I think some Republicans understand that. I think that's going to be a major issue.
Well, it's an interesting that you mentioned 28. I think, picture it. If it
been behaving since that assassination. And I'll preface this with, I am very sorry if that offends you, Erika. Genuinely, I am sorry that there is no amount of increase in pressure and propaganda and headlines written about me that are going to convince me. And by the way, I'm just the conduit, right? You're attacking me, but you're angry that also the masses have not accepted this. There's not a number that is going to convince the masses that his human neck, stopped a 30-06 bullet. Okay. And not even just stop the bullet. I also want to be clear here. It's not just that they're saying that it ricocheted and it stopped, and this would maybe be the first time in human history. And please, if you do know a story, you've got an old article, I don't care where it's from, if you saved a newspaper article from the early 1900s in your family of an example, I don't think that bullet existed then, but of a 30-06 being stopped by a human neck, please present it. I'd like to show that it is possible, right? It is actually, this happened one time down in Texas. It's possible. But not only are they saying that they stopped it, but I want to remind you that there was minimal damage to the front of Charlie's neck as well, okay? There was minimal damage to the front of Charlie's neck as well. So it didn't even cause a lot of, damage as it went in. It just cleanly went in and then ricocheted downward into his stomach. I'm frustrated, obviously, for a lot of reasons, but Erika's that's now being teased, the interview with Barry Weiss, it's being termed a town hall. And Barry is obviously just a Tel Aviv agent. Her entire background story, her rise, her studying in Tel Aviv, her family ties, the hand of Midas pulling her through the ranks a la Jeffrey Epstein. Despite her sub-average intelligence, she's not interesting. She somehow becomes a chief over at CBS News. Right? This actually, what I'm saying about Barry Weiss, this gets into Tucker's quote-unquote problematic speech at SAS when he jumped on stage and basically asked that question. How are all of these subpar people becoming billionaires? The rest of us have to work forever. They're not interesting. They're not talented. And they just seemingly are just getting all of this money and opportunities offered to them. This is clearly not a meritocracy that we're living under. It feels more like, and I'm saying this, more like a cartel. Okay, Barry Weiss is actually one of the people that we should study when it comes to being unimpressive and just getting handouts anyways. It's like welfare. I feel like she's on welfare. Like we all have to work and she gets promoted. And she's going to be unimpressive in this clip because that's her default. She can't even convincingly ask the prepared, loaded question that she is going to deliver to Erika. And this question, like I said, has likely, by the way, been reviewed and marked up by lawyers, but she still is not even convincing, despite having it ahead of time in this delivery. Take a listen.
The podcaster Candace Owens, okay? At one time, a friend of Charlie's, at one time, an employee of Turning Point. She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies, and she is making a huge amount of money on it. She is building her business off of these lies. What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now? Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
So this is just, to me, I'm going to also let you know, they pre-recorded this. Obviously, I told you this yesterday from about 11 o'clock to 4 p.m. I have sources just everywhere, CBS News, the people that were in the audience I showed you were emailing me, and they had to do multiple takes because Barry wanted to read a prompter. These questions were pre-submitted, okay? And I would like to respond to this loaded question. What would you like to say? The podcaster Candace Owens, and I'm not even going to address this repeat talking point about people making money, except for the people that have actually made off of all of the money, millions upon millions of dollars. But this is the new thing. It's like if you keep doing what you were already doing in podcasting, or keep doing what you were already doing and doing ballistics on YouTube, if you catch a bunch of views, they want to convince you that like you wake up and you turn into a millionaire. Building her business. What are you talking about? I already had this business. I was already at the top of the charts. Okay, I said I wasn't going to talk about it. I actually did because it's so ridiculous. Okay. But she says, I'm lying. And Erika responds, and her answer to what do you want to say to the podcaster Candace Owens who is lying is stop. So Erika would like me to stop lying. And I would like to honor that. Okay. I can only honor that if Erika is more explicit in terms of what I have lied about. What did I lie about? It's just incredible. There have this opportunity. The questions have been before. You could just start like going through them. Maybe they will. By the way, it's coming out on Saturday. Maybe I've made a mistake somewhere and I'm happy. I want to correct that, right? I'm not interested. My goal is not to tell lies. It is obviously plausible that I have made mistakes. I've reviewed these lists that we've put together and I can't find the lie. Okay. The lies that I find are coming out of Turning Point USA. Okay. And here are some of those lies. You know, Mikey had blood all over him. Okay. Mikey has offered that his dad was confused. I'll accept that. Well, I didn't lie about that. Rob McCoy lied. His father also said he called his father first. Maybe Rob McCoy was confused. Mikey being a hero for walking away doesn't feel honest. Charlie's neck stopping a 30-06 bullet because he ate healthy and had strong bones. It was a modern day Christian miracle. That feels like a pretty big lie. Okay. Charlie never wavered in his support for Israel was a nasty lie. Maybe Barry want to like, what do you want to say to the people that literally lied about what Charlie was living through in the last weeks of his life? Stop, Josh Hammer. Stop, Bibi Netanyahu. No, I'm sorry. Barry Weiss is here. We're not going to get to that. Charlie was a committed evangelical who only liked Catholic architecture. Did I lie about that? Nope. Turning Point USA lied about that. And I was attacked for telling, I'm attacked for catching the lies. We'll get to that later. That's their new method. Once first they accuse me of lying, then I prove I'm not lying. And then their strategy is to attack me for telling the truth and saying, how dare you reveal a personal text message to defend yourself from being called a liar. We can keep going here. Has any of this been clarified? Ben Shapiro said they never had any bad blood between them. I proved that was not true. Again, that also came from a little PR. Alex Clark pulling that move. Next page, Terrell Farnsworth was told to remove that SD card by police. That was not true. Terrell Farnsworth personally told me that was not true. Terrell removed the SD cards because people were stealing hats. Again, not what Terrell Farnsworth himself told me. And also doesn't make any logical sense because if you were worried about theft, you would have taken the cameras and not just the SD card, particularly from the camera behind his head, as opposed to the cameras that were in front of him. Lie. Charlie established a Doge and it was not unusual. That's a lie. It was unusual. Doge didn't even exist prior to Elon Musk making that a thing about government accountability. Charlie Kirk's team did not fly drones. Major lie. Brian Harpole told that lie. Brian Harpole also told a major lie when he said that the security had communicated with UVU police to secure those rooftops. That was a lie. It was actually the walkway behind. What am I getting here? What have I done here in this presentation that I lied about? Have I made mistakes along the way? Yes, I'm not perfect, and I will always adjust those mistakes. So I'm asking you to tell me what I lied about. Why is there not this same energy also for the feds? Because they've told some lies. We've got a list of those too. We put that together. We would like some clarity. Again, Charlie being shot with a .30-06. The lover text messages mysteriously presented without any timestamps, lying about how Tyler Robinson was arrested. They claim that he confessed and turned himself in. That's not what happened. That he said he was guilty. All of his, father said he was guilty. That's not what happened. Never revealed that Tyler Robinson was at the Dairy Queen following the assassination. He was throwing clothes away, as I presented to you guys, in the cemetery. That's problematic to the timeline. We'd like some clarity. That's an oddity. They said Tyler Robinson was arrested wearing a maroon shirt. That actually was also not true. They said Tyler Robinson was suicidal, but also turned himself in because he was afraid of being shot by police. Those two ideas seem to be running into each other. How can both of these things be true? Did he want to die or not want to die? Maybe there's an explanation. It's definitely odd. And the footage mysteriously missing of Tyler Robinson turning himself in. And then, of course, there's just like things that we can't get answers to, which is the Egyptian planes, tracking Charlie, following Erika throughout years. Instead, they're laughing at these things. So what am I lying about? Explicitly lying about. Not made a molecular or a minor mistake. We got a time zone wrong. And then it's like, she lied. The plane left a couple of hours earlier. Maybe somewhere I made a mistake on a timeline of Charlie being here on this day when he's actually there on that day. But I'm talking like, where am I lying? Because I would like to stop if you can tell me. Okay? And maybe they will. Maybe we'll get to that on Saturday. And by the way, to be clear, I am also telling the truth. It is not my opinion that these questions were pre-selected. It's a fact. It's a fact. Like I said, we have insiders. The questions were pre-selected. And one of the pre-selected questions was for Erika, and this will come out on Saturday, setting the stage for her to condemn anti-Semitism, to which she responds and speaks about, as I told you yesterday, how Turning Point will be hosting a Shabbat dinner. And in case the direction of travel for CBS under the stewardship of Barry Weiss is not clear, they even brought in during this town hall the father of the young woman who was shot in DC at the Jewish Museum. I think that was an IDF soldier. I might be wrong about that. They also brought out Hunter Kozak, who asked the last question to Charlie Kirk. They filled the audience with people selected by CBS, college Republicans, with questions selected by CBS. So it just is objectively a controlled and a managed situation, a controlled and a managed conversation, if you will. But, and you can predict this, if you are at home this Saturday and you watch this and you're just, a regular old person around the world and you go, this feels really scripted. The influencers are going to come out and they're going to mark you as evil, demonic even. How dare you? Question, what? Are you kidding me? This is like, you're not allowed to say that this feels scripted ever, even though this entire thing since September 10th feels scripted to me. But that's not it. Okay, we're going to get more because Erika also sat down with Glenn Beck of Blaze TV. Now, again, this is all a part of a PR blitz for Charlie's upcoming book on honoring the Shabbat, which I'm not going to be doing because I'm Christian. So I'd like to already just say no. Okay. Anyways, Glenn Beck's interview has a bunch of high points, if you will. Foremost, Erika stressing that she believes that the truth is clear. Take a listen.
I don't know how you handle this, Eric. I don't know how to be dragged into, you were involved in the death and all this crazy, evil stuff.
No, it's sick.
God bless you.
It's sick.
God bless you. It is.
My family means everything to me.
Turning Point USA has always been in our life and has always been so good to Charlie, and Charlie was good to his team. Everyone loved Charlie.
Yeah.
I get that. Everyone wants an answer to this evil. And sometimes the answer is very clear.
Yeah.
The truth
You know,
is very clear.
So I just want to say to, first and foremost, Glenn setting that question up, I can't find to this day, because this just feels to me to be like the ultimate straw man, any commentator that has explicitly accused Erika of killing Charlie Kirk. I've seen psychological manipulation of influencers trying to say that if you critique Turning Point, that's akin to accusing Charlie Kirk of Erika Kirk of killing her husband, which is utterly ridiculous. But I have never seen, and maybe I missed it, I've seen a lot, somebody come out and say Erika Kirk murdered Charlie. But that's what they set up always, which is like, I don't know how you are. I've seen people digging into her background. I've seen people speaking about her Romanian charity. I've seen people looking into her mother, all of that. I've seen all of that, but I have not yet seen where this idea that they keep trying to seed into our minds that asking any questions is it's equivalent to accusing her of murder. That even that feels manipulative to me. Then comes in this totally organic question from Glenn Beck. Totally organic, right? And this is going to be the extreme appeal to authority, which is, okay, if we don't want to answer any questions, we're just going to say you don't understand how the court works. You shouldn't be asking questions because that could potentially ruin the upcoming trial. Take a listen.
You concerned about his assassin is in court today. Are you concerned about being able to have a jury that's not been tainted?
No, it's a real thing, Glenn, and you get this. A lot of people don't, and I think that we need to do a better job of educating our citizens about our court systems. A lot of people don't know how an actual trial plays out. I am very curious about how the United Healthcare case plays out. We are living in a day and age where social media can absolutely impact. I feel it can. The reason I say that is because I don't want a tainted jury pool. I want justice for my husband. Anytime we have leads, anytime we hear anything, we send it to the authorities. We're not messing around. None of us are involved in my husband's murder. None of us. Turning Point USA, myself, any of these other crazy accusations, none of us.
Okay, so this is what I mean, where I just feel like we're just doing the same thing over and over and over again in politics, where you can just apply any situation. Like it's how it starts. It's like they come up with a narrative and it feels really stupid. You could apply this to COVID, whatever. And then people start asking questions because it feels really stupid. And then they tell you like, oh, I wish you guys were more educated about science. I wish you guys were more educated about doctors and nurses, and like, you're just not there. I wish we could explain to you how these things work. But you're going to have to trust the experts. And yeah, I actually think that also because you guys are not trusting the experts, we're going to have to censor people on social media, as they did during COVID, because social media is problematic. Actually, the problem is free speech, ultimately, right? Like the problem is that you have people on social media who are talking common sense and they don't understand this. Okay, that's like, that doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me, and it shouldn't work for you. And this next portion is where we get into the mass formation psychosis element, which is when they're trying to modify our behavior, the behavior of the masses, and they kind of want us to all form around this idea. And this is kind of actually we're all in this together psychology that you're about to see, right? The higher calling element of the psychological conditioning. You guys are focusing on the minutia of that day and whether or not the government is involved with assassinating Charlie Kirk. But, Tim Pool's telling you guys midterms. There's midterms and there's things. That's the higher calling, right? The masses should get around that higher calling. Like, even if it goes against your gut to mask your toddler, even if it goes against your gut, to let your grandma die alone in a hospital, even if something is screaming at you and you're saying, why does this all feel abusive? Like abusive to toddlers, abusive to our grandparents, let them die alone. Why does it feel to me, my instinct tells me that we shouldn't put medical masks on on toddlers who can't see expressions? Well, the higher calling is that you should always ignore your gut, right? Because we're all in this together, and there's something bigger that we can aspire to. You should violate your gut instinct, and that's what's coming next. Take a listen.
I don't need you to comment on this, but I think mental illness is involved in some of this stuff that is online.
Yeah,
I think it's really,
and Glenn, I'll
honestly,
be honest,
I feel bad.
I
It's
am
mentally.
I am not going to
mental
waste my
illness.
time. I'm not going to waste my time in combating people,
like
going
Yeah, yeah.
toe to toe, calling people names. I just, that's just not me. That's not how Charlie operated. There's no reason for me to go down a dark place like that. I'm so tired of the fracture. What drives me nuts is that Charlie, he has worked and provided and has blessed us with so much, like literally his book, he has blessed us with so much wisdom, so much, he's just such a good thought leader. He blessed us with laser focus on the mission, on saving this country. But instead, we're so focused on who did what. Like, yes, we will figure all that out. Yes, this is a murder case. He did not die in a car crash. Yes, that will be handled. But my husband's legacy is not about his murder.
It's the conspiracies around Charlie's death. And, you know, when this first happened, you know that I do this every day for a living, and you're a part of this. Most of the ugliness and everything was coming from a predictable direction, the left. Now it's on the right. It's everywhere. And let me start here. You felt, I know you were asked, but you felt that now was your time to address it. Why?
Well, like I said earlier, I just want a very peaceful Christmas. I want my team to have a peaceful Christmas. I'm not going to sit here and mudsling. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to call names. I'm not going to insult. Everyone's loved my husband, and we're all trying to figure out what happened. I have a little bit more insight because I'm a victim. So I get to see the autopsy report. I get to see all of the files that our prosecution, has pulled together. I trust that case. And so while everyone's trying to find the ultimate explanation of digging deeper and digging deeper, that's one thing. You know, if you want to dig into his Discord chats or whatever that guy was involved in, I don't care. Have a heyday with that. Go right ahead. I'm not telling you to not ask questions. I just told you this. I ask questions literally daily.
Yes.
That's not what this is about. What this is about is the accusations that somehow Turning Point USA, my husband's team, my husband's security team, my husband's friends, my husband's employees are somehow, and myself, are somehow implicated in his murder. That is a totally different line. Totally different line. So of course I am going to stand up for that. That's a line in the sand. Because anyone who knew Charlie and knows us, that's sick. It's sick. But if you want to go after whatever you want to go after down that way of, great. But don't accuse us. Don't overanalyze. Like, honestly, Will, I have no idea. how I would have reacted that day if I was there and I saw my husband be murdered. So how are you going to hyperanalyze those people that love my husband, that were with him that second, thinking that their reaction meant somehow they were involved in it? This is a one of one where social media has just had a heyday, tearing things apart. And what's so sad is that I know all of those people that were there that day. And I know all of the people who are impacted by this that are with our close orbit. And it is painful to see on their face how exhausted they are to have to relive the trauma every single day. That's not fair. We are not robots.
How do they consume it, Erika? How does it, I mean, social media, how is it getting to you? Like, I know you said the chatter.
Well, the team tells me, I mean, I do not watch one thing. The team tells me if there's anything I need to know. I mean, honestly,
Right.
I say, unless I really need to know, tell me. But if I don't, please, I don't need to hear it. But that's, we
So
try to
they come
guard
in,
it that way.
Erika,
But
and they're like, they're saying this now. This is the current line. This is what's happening.
not all the time. Not all the time. Honestly, it might not even be from the team. I'll get a phone call from someone and be like, hey, did you know that somehow you're involved with Romanian orphans being sex trafficked? I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, it becomes laughable at some point. I mean, again, we have been lied to over and over again. So there is a baseline of understanding of, okay, we're trying to seek the truth. I get that. Again, I'm not saying don't ask questions. But when you turn questions into accusations and you don't have proof, and you're leaving things open-ended as if our team or someone involved with our team is involved in it, and then you sit there and hyperanalyze my body movements, my tears, my frowns, my voice inflection, my faith, if it's not real or if it is real. I'm not going to waste my time with that. I have nothing to prove to you.
Where do you think
when
it's
you
coming
know
from,
the
Erika?
truth, I beg your pardon?
Where do you think it's coming from? Like, what's the motivation?
That's for each individual person. Everyone has their own motive. I'm not going to assume what those motives are. Some, it might be, honestly, grief is weird. Everyone grieves differently. It's not linear. Comes in waves. Everyone has their own personal relationship with Charlie in a way where even if you didn't even meet him, you have a personal relationship with him because you watched his videos or you went to a campus event. Then you get to the next tier where you actually did meet him. That's another personal layer. Then you get to the next tier where you were actually a friend. So I'm not going to sit here and question or hyperanalyze what someone's motives is. That's in their own heart, and that's what they have to deal with responding to the Lord. That I'm not going to go, you have to put your head down on your pillow at night, and whatever your decision is, that was your decision. Mm-hmm. What I do ask, though, is that you keep in mind, again, there is a difference between questions and accusations. And if you have accusations and you are going to go down that rabbit hole, provide proof. I don't care if you're a journalist or someone on X. If you say accusations, provide proof. You can't just throw stuff out there and then all of a sudden everyone thinks that somehow that's truth. It's not. And it's very hard to prove a negative. So if you say, well, I don't believe what they're saying, even though they're telling you the truth, well, how is the truth going to set you free if you don't believe the truth? So now you're just talking in circles. My only prayer for all of this is that all of us can remember that Charlie was a thought leader. He would not want his life and his legacy to revolve around his murder. He would want his life and legacy to revolve around helping deliver the youth vote, helping to build Turning Point USA, helping to make a difference on college campuses. Mm-hmm. That is what I pray we focus on. The justice will be served, and trust me, it will. And again, you can have questions, but
I'm gonna ask you
please
one.
honor my husband.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you one last question on this. And
Mm-hmm.
I want you to know, and I want everybody listening to know, I'm trying to ask you about this in the most respectful manner, acknowledging.
know.
But I want you everybody to
I
know
know.
this is the juggle. And it's not woe is me. It's like, I don't want you to have to talk about something that you don't want to talk about. I also don't want to be juvenile. So the juvenile part of this is the prurient digging in, and it's also doing something that I've done so far in this interview, which I haven't mentioned Candace Owens. I just didn't mention her name. And I didn't do that because I don't want to force you to talk about it if you don't want to. But everyone listening knows. And so after a while, I'm like, well, don't be juvenile. Everybody knows what you're talking about. And I'll be up front. I haven't kept up with it. I don't know everything. I don't know all the accusations. It's impossible. It's impossible to keep up with.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, I guess I am asking about something that we're not addressing. And I don't think that's fair to the audience. So I'm going to ask you this last question on this. And what I'm going to say is, you have made a choice that has changed in the last week. Your team has been talking, and you have also said that a bridge has been crossed, talking about people that you know. What I'm curious about, Erika, is going forward, will you and the team, do you think you will talk about it more? Do you think you will address all of the stuff? Because to your point, you said it, and I feel it. It's growing. It's not going away. You know, the chatter, the theories, it's growing. It's not going away. So how do you think you'll address that going forward?
Yeah, the chatter will always be there, regardless. What if we spent all of our time going through every single accusation, we'd get nothing done at the office. Nothing. We were told that if we said stop, they would stop. And we said stop. And I'll say it again. Please stop.
Erika, one of the most alarming things about Charlie's murder was the way that some people in this country reacted to it.
Yeah.
And not just online. This was an idea that you encountered a lot. And the idea was this. They kind of justified it. They basically said that because Charlie said or believed things that they believed were controversial or even hateful, that he somehow had it coming. What do you say to people who justified his death?
You're sick. He's a human being. You think he deserved that? Tell that to my 3-year-old daughter. Excuse me. You want to watch in high res the video of my husband being murdered and laugh and say he deserves it? There's something very sick in your soul, and I pray that God saves you. I pray, because that is what is so wrong. The internet in this world has dehumanized